She walked into his office at 8:47 a.m. with a letter folded in her pocket. 3 weeks since that rainy night when everything shattered, the professional distance, the careful walls, the lie that what she felt was just respect. Sullivan Whitlock stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Boston Harbor, his back to her, shoulders tight beneath his tailored suit. She'd memorized those shoulders. Memorized the way he carried grief like a second skin. Memorized how he'd looked at her in the rain with his defenses down and his heart finally, terrifyingly visible. Her resignation was typed. Dated. Signed. 2 weeks' notice to save them both from the impossible. She opened her mouth to speak. He turned. And the way he looked at her, like she was air and he'd been drowning, made her forget every word. Family, welcome back to our channel, where we bring you emotional stories of love. Because in truth, love and death cannot be escaped. No one can say when, how, or where. It's never too early or too late. If you're new to this channel, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification button right now so you don't miss what happens next. And if you're one of our returning viewers, thank you so much. We appreciate you. Now, stay with us to the end of this story. Leave a comment with your thoughts and like this video. Let's continue. Kendall Price had prepared for this moment like a closing argument. She'd practiced in her bathroom mirror at 5 a.m., coffee growing cold on the counter. Rehearsed the speech in her car during the 40-minute drive from her apartment in Cambridge to Whitlock Technologies headquarters in downtown Boston. Repeated the key phrases while riding the elevator to the 42nd floor: professional, grateful, necessary transition, personal reasons. She had not prepared for the roses. They covered her desk. 24 deep red blooms in a crystal vase she'd never seen before, water droplets still clinging to velvet petals. No card. No explanation. Just flowers on Valentine's Day from a man who hadn't celebrated a single holiday in the 4 years since his wife died. Her hand trembled as she touched one soft petal. "You're here early." Sullivan's voice came from his office doorway. Kendall yanked her hand back like the roses had burned her, smoothing her navy dress, professional, modest, the kind of thing an executive assistant wore when she was about to blow up her entire life. "I'm always here early, Mr. Whitlock." The formality tasted wrong. 3 weeks ago, in the rain, he'd been Sullivan. He'd been human. He'd been hers for exactly 4 hours before reality crashed back in. Sullivan. His voice was quiet. Careful. The way you talk to someone who might run. "You haven't called me Mr. Whitlock since your second week here." Because that was before. Before she knew what his laugh sounded like, rare and rusty and beautiful. Before she'd seen him cry. Before his mouth had found hers in his darkened office while thunder shook the windows and the truth finally broke free. "The roses are beautiful." She didn't look at him. Couldn't. "You shouldn't have." "I didn't." Her gaze snapped to his face. Sullivan stood perfectly still in his charcoal suit, silver threading the dark hair at his temples, those blue eyes holding something that made her chest ache. At 38, he'd already lived a dozen lifetimes, built a billion-dollar tech empire from nothing, married young, loved deeply, buried the love of his life at 35. The grief had carved hollows beneath his cheekbones, left permanent shadows under his eyes. She'd watched him carry that weight for nearly 2 years. Watched and ached and kept her distance because that's what you did when you were 32 and your boss was brilliant and broken and absolutely off limits. "Marcus sent them," Sullivan continued. "For the staff. Valentine's Day morale or something. I told him it was ridiculous." Of course. She should have known. Sullivan Whitlock didn't do romance. Didn't do feelings. Didn't do anything that required emotional availability beyond what he gave to quarterly earnings calls and board meetings. Except he had. 3 weeks ago. 4 perfect, terrible hours. "I need to speak with you." Kendall's voice came out steadier than she felt. "Do you have a moment?" Something flickered across his face. Fear, maybe. Or resignation. Always. You know that. She followed him into his office, the same space where everything had changed. Floor-to-ceiling windows faced Boston Harbor, gray water churning under a steel sky. His desk was clean except for 3 monitors and a photo he kept face down in the drawer. She knew because she'd seen him put it there her first week, watched him choose to hide his late wife's smile rather than face it every day. Sullivan didn't sit. Neither did she. They stood on opposite sides of his desk like opposing counsel, and the distance felt both necessary and unbearable. I'm resigning. The words came fast. Rip the bandage off. Effective 2 weeks from today. I've prepared a transition plan, identified 3 excellent candidates to replace me, and I'll make myself available for questions during the handover period. Silence. Heavy and sharp. Sullivan's jaw tightened. His hands curled into fists at his sides, then deliberately relaxed. When he spoke, his voice was terrifyingly calm. No. I'm sorry. No. I don't accept your resignation. Heat flooded her cheeks. That's not how this works. I'm giving you professional notice. Kendall. Her name stopped her cold. The way he said it, rough and real and full of things they couldn't afford to feel. Don't do this. I have to. She pulled the letter from her pocket, hands shaking despite 2 hours of practice. Set it on his desk between them. What happened that night it was a mistake. We both know it. You were grieving, I was falling in love with you. It doesn't matter. We crossed a line. The professional relationship is compromised. The ethical thing. Sullivan's laugh was bitter. You want to talk about ethics? About what's right? He moved then, coming around the desk. Not touching her. Just close enough that she could smell his cologne, cedar and something clean that made her want to lean in. I haven't been able to think straight for 3 weeks. Haven't slept. Haven't focused in a single meeting. You know why. She couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. Sullivan. Because every time I close my eyes, I see you. The way you looked at me when I finally told the truth. When I said I'd been lying to myself for months. That you weren't just my assistant. That somewhere between the coffee you bring me without asking and the way you laugh at my terrible jokes and the 1,000 small ways you've held me together he stopped. Swallowed hard. Don't resign, Kendall. Please. I can't stay. Her voice cracked. You're my boss. I work for you. There are rules, Sullivan. Power dynamics. All the reasons this can't happen. Then I'll resign. The world tilted. What? I'll step down as CEO. He said it like he meant it. Like he'd already thought it through. Marcus can take over. He's been ready for years. I'll move to an advisory role, board position, something that puts us on equal footing. You built this company. Kendall's hands fisted in her dress. Whitlock Technologies is your life. You can't just walk away because one night. It wasn't one night. Sullivan's voice dropped. Gentle. Devastating. It's been every day for the past year. Maybe longer. Every morning you walk in with that smile that doesn't reach your eyes since Derek broke your heart. Every late night when it's just us and you actually laugh. Every goddamn moment I've wanted to tell you the truth and convinced myself I was protecting you by staying silent. She couldn't do this. Couldn't stand here while he dismantled every defense she'd built since that night. Since her wedding day when Derek had looked at her in her dress and said he couldn't do it, couldn't marry her, couldn't be what she needed. Since she'd stood alone in an empty church and decided never again. Never again would she risk her heart on someone who could destroy it. You don't want me. The words came out harsh. True. You want to not be alone. You want someone who understands your grief, who makes you feel human again. But that's not love, Sullivan. That's need. And when you realize the difference, when you wake up one day and see me clearly instead of through this fantasy. Stop. He closed the distance between them. Still not touching, but close enough that she could see the gold flecks in his blue eyes. Close enough to count the breaths between them. You think I don't see you? I see everything. I see how you take care of everyone in this building. How you remember birthdays and check on people and somehow make this place feel less cold. I see you visiting your mother every Sunday even though she doesn't remember who you are half the time. I see you flinch every time someone mentions weddings or Valentine's Day or anything that reminds you of what Derek stole from you. Tears burned her eyes. She blinked them back. Failed. I see you, Kendall. The real you. Not some grief-distorted fantasy. And that terrifies me because I buried the woman I loved 3 years ago and swore I'd never feel this again. Never risk this again. His hand lifted, hesitated, then carefully, so carefully, brushed a tear from her cheek. But that rainy night when we stopped pretending? When I finally told you the truth and you didn't run. That was the first time I've felt alive since Caroline died. And I won't, let you walk away because we're both scared. She was crying now. Really crying. The ugly kind where your breath catches and your nose runs and you can't make it stop. Sullivan pulled a handkerchief from his pocket, actual cloth, monogrammed, the kind of old-fashioned thing only he would carry, and handed it to her. "I'm scared," she whispered. "I'm so scared, Sullivan." "I know. Me too." His thumb traced her jawline. "So let's be scared together. Stay. Not as my assistant, we'll figure that out. But stay in my life. Give this a real chance." The letter sat on his desk. 2 weeks' notice. Her escape route. The safe choice. Kendall looked at it. Looked at Sullivan. At the hope and fear warring in his eyes. "I need time," she said finally. "I need to think." Something crumpled in his expression, but he nodded. Stepped back. Put distance between them. "How much time?" "I don't know. A few days. A week." "And you'll stay? While you think. You won't just disappear." The vulnerability in his voice broke something in her chest. This man who commanded boardrooms and built empires and never showed weakness, he was begging. For her. For them. "I'll stay," she promised. "I won't disappear." Sullivan exhaled like he'd been holding his breath for 3 weeks. Maybe he had been. Okay. Thank you." She turned to leave. Made it to the door. His voice stopped her. "Kendall." She looked back. Happy Valentine's Day. The flowers. The roses that weren't from him but could have been. Should have been, in some other universe where they'd met differently. Where she wasn't his employee. Where his heart wasn't buried with his wife. Where her trust hadn't been shattered in a church full of pitying faces. Happy Valentine's Day, Sullivan. She left him standing in his office, the resignation letter untouched on his desk, and walked back to her desk on legs that barely held her. Sat down in her chair. Stared at the roses Marcus had sent for staff morale. Her phone buzzed. A text from Rachel. "Lunch today? You sound weird in your emails." Kendall typed back, "I think I just made the biggest mistake of my life." Or didn't. I can't tell which. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Finally, his office. Noon. Bringing wine in coffee cups. "You're telling me everything." She almost smiled. Almost. The morning crawled by. Sullivan stayed in his office with the door closed, unusual for him. He was a walk-around CEO, constantly checking in with teams, solving problems in real time. But today he stayed hidden, and Kendall knew why. He was giving her space. Respecting her request for time. It made her want to run to him. It made her want to run away. At 11:30, Marcus Whitlock emerged from the elevators with his easy smile and expensive haircut. Younger than Sullivan by 3 years, lighter in every way, where his brother carried gravity, Marcus radiated charm. "Kendall. Looking beautiful as always. Did you get your flowers?" "They're lovely. Thank you." Professional. Pleasant. The mask she'd worn for nearly 2 years. Valentine's Day. Marcus perched on the edge of her desk like he owned the place. Which, technically, he partly did. Stupid commercial holiday, but the staff loves it. Makes them feel appreciated or whatever. He lowered his voice conspiratorially. "Between you and me, I'm trying to get Sullivan to actually celebrate something. Anything. Man's been a ghost since Caroline." Kendall's chest tightened. He's grieving. It takes time. It's been 3 years. I'm not saying forget her. God knows I loved Caroline too. But living. Marcus gestured at Sullivan's closed door. That he's forgotten how to do. Though. He studied her with sharp eyes that missed nothing. He seems different lately. Last few weeks especially. Almost awake. You notice anything? Everything. She'd noticed everything. I couldn't say. The lie tasted awful. Is there something you needed? Marcus's smile didn't quite reach his eyes. Just checking if my brother's treating you right. You've been here, what, 2 years? Best assistant he's ever had. I'd hate to lose you because he's forgotten how to be human. The irony nearly made her laugh. If Marcus knew what was happening, what had happened, he'd probably throw a party. Or fire her. Maybe both. Sullivan's a good boss. True. I'm not going anywhere. Maybe true. She didn't know anymore. Good. Marcus stood, smoothed his suit. Because this place would fall apart without you. We all know it. Especially him, whether he admits it or not. He left. Kendall exhaled. Looked at the closed office door, hiding the man who just offered to give up everything for her. Her phone buzzed. I'm coming up early. You look like death. Rachel. 5 minutes later, her best friend appeared with 2 large coffees that definitely didn't smell like coffee. Rachel Chun was small and fierce, with a purple streak in her black hair and a complete inability to follow corporate dress codes. She worked in R&D 3 floors down, which meant she operated in a different universe from executive administration. Spill. Rachel shoved a cup into Kendall's hands. What happened? And don't say nothing because I can literally see you vibrating with anxiety from across the room. Kendall glanced at Sullivan's door. Still closed. She lowered her voice anyway. Not here. Conference room B. It's empty until 1. 3 minutes later they were locked in the small conference room, winterlight filtering through the windows, and Kendall was trying to explain the unexplainable. So let me get this straight. Rachel sipped her wine coffee. You've been half in love with your emotionally unavailable billionaire boss for a year. 3 weeks ago during that crazy storm, you guys had some kind of emotional breakthrough where he confessed feelings and you kissed. Then you both freaked out and avoided each other. And this morning you tried to quit and he said no and offered to resign himself so you could be together. Laid out like that, it sounded insane. Yes. Girl. Rachel set down her cup. What is the actual problem here? He's my boss. So quit. Take a different job. Problem solved. I can't just, it's not that simple. The power dynamic, the ethical. Kendall. Rachel's voice went gentle. Dangerous. Is this about ethics or is this about Derek? The name landed like a fist. Kendall looked away, out the window at Boston spreading below them. That's not fair. Isn't it? You got left at the altar. That's trauma. Real, legitimate trauma. And I watched you rebuild yourself piece by piece. Watched you decide you were done with love, done risking your heart. But babe. Rachel reached across the table, squeezed her hand. Derek was a coward who didn't deserve you. Sullivan is a grown man who just offered to walk away from his own company to be with you. Those are not the same thing. What if he changes his mind? The fear came out raw. Honest. What if 6 months from now he realizes this was grief, or loneliness, or just, not real? What if I let myself believe this and he leaves? What if he doesn't? Kendall had no answer for that. Look. Rachel's grip tightened. I'm not saying ignore red flags or jump into something stupid. But I've watched you for 2 years. Watched you light up every time Sullivan actually talks to you like a human instead of an assistant. Watched you care about him, worry about him, try to make him smile. That's not nothing, Kendall. And if he's finally waking up enough to see you, maybe that's worth the risk. Was it? Kendall didn't know. Didn't trust her own judgment anymore. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. This is Sullivan. Got your personal number from HR. I know you need time. Just wanted to say I meant everything I said this morning. Take all the time you need. I'll wait. S. Rachel read over her shoulder and whistled. Oh, you're done. That man has it bad. Kendall's finger hovered over the message. Typed, thank you for understanding. Deleted it. Typed, I meant what I said too. I just need to be sure. Sent before she could overthink. 3 dots appeared immediately. Sullivan, I understand. For what it's worth, I've never been more sure of anything. But I'll wait until you are too. Okay, yeah. Rachel drained her wine coffee. You're marrying that man. Calling it now. Family, if you watched this story up to this point, it means it moved you. Leave your thoughts and tell me where you are watching from in the comment, and make sure to like and hit the subscribe button if you haven't. Smash the hype button now if you found value in this content, it really helps my channel. Kendall didn't sleep. She lay in her Cambridge apartment staring at her ceiling, replaying Sullivan's words on an endless loop. I see you. The real you. At 3 a.m., she gave up and made tea. Chamomile that tasted like disappointment. Her mother had sent her the tin for Christmas. One of her good days when Vivian Price remembered her daughter preferred tea to coffee, remembered small details about the person Kendall used to be before Derek, before everything. Her phone sat on the counter. Silent. Accusing. She picked it up. Scrolled to Sullivan's text. Read it again. And again. I've never been more sure of anything. Her thumb hovered over his contact. 3:17 a.m. She shouldn't. But her brain wouldn't stop spinning through possibilities and disasters and what-ifs that all ended with her heart in pieces on the floor. The phone rang in her hand. Sullivan's name lit the screen. She answered without thinking. Hello. You're awake. His voice was rough. Tired. Beautiful. I saw you read my message. Thought you might be spiraling. It's 3 in the morning. I know. I haven't slept either. A pause. The sound of movement, like he was pacing. I keep thinking about what you said. That I don't want you, I just want to not be alone. And Kendall, you're wrong. She pulled her knees to her chest, phone pressed to her ear. Sullivan. Let me finish. Please. He exhaled. After Caroline died, people kept trying to fix me. Set me up. Tell me I needed to move on, find someone new. And the thought made me sick. The idea of replacing her, of pretending someone else could fill that space, I couldn't. So I shut down. Buried myself in work. Convinced myself that was enough. Kendall closed her eyes, listening. Then you walked into my office for your interview 2 years ago. March 15, 2023. You wore a gray suit and you were nervous. Your hands shook when you gave me your resume. But you looked me in the eye, and when I asked why you wanted the job, you said something that stuck with me. She remembered. God, she remembered that interview. How devastatingly handsome he was. How sad. You said you understood what it meant to rebuild, Sullivan continued. That you were good at organizing chaos because you'd had to organize your own life from scratch. I didn't know then about Derek. Didn't know what you'd survived. But I felt it. This recognition. Like looking in a mirror. I almost didn't take the job. The confession spilled out. You scared me. How much I wanted to fix you. I know. You told me that night. In the rain. His voice dropped. You also told me you started falling for me during the August retreat. When I talked about Caroline at the campfire and everyone got uncomfortable, but you stayed. Just listened. August 2024. 6 months ago. The company retreat in the White Mountains where Sullivan had gotten quietly drunk and talked about his late wife for the first time in years. Everyone had made excuses and scattered except Kendall. She'd sat beside him under the stars and let him remember out loud. You didn't make me feel broken, Sullivan said. You made me feel seen. Like grief was allowed. Like I could be sad and still be whole. A breath. That's when I started lying to myself. Telling myself what I felt was gratitude. Professional respect. Anything but the truth. What truth? That I was falling in love with you. Simple. Devastating. Not to fill Caroline's space. Not to not be alone. But because you're brilliant and kind and you laugh at terrible action movies and you cry during commercial about dogs. Because you visit your mother every Sunday even though Alzheimer's stole her memory but not yours. Because you're strong and scared and real, Kendall. And I don't want just anyone. I want you. Tears slid hot down her cheeks. She didn't wipe them away. The rainy night, she whispered. Tell me what you remember. Everything. His voice roughened. You'd stayed late. We were reviewing the Matsuda contract. The storm hit around 8. Do you remember? Thunder so loud the windows shook. She remembered. Late January, that horrible storm that had knocked out power across half of Boston. The lights went out, Sullivan continued. Emergency generators kicked in, but it was just us on the 42nd floor. You made some joke about horror movies. And then, you asked me if I was okay. Really okay. You looked so tired. Kendall pulled a blanket around her shoulders. You'd been in back-to-back meetings for 3 days. I could see you running on empty. No one else noticed. Or if they did, they didn't care enough to ask. A pause. You made coffee. From the emergency supplies. It tasted like dirt, but you drank it anyway and told me about the time you got stuck in an elevator during a blackout and had a panic attack. I don't usually tell people that story. I know. That's why it mattered. She heard him moving again, probably to his windows. She could picture him there, rumpled dress shirt, tie discarded, looking out at his city. I told you about the night Caroline died. Things I'd never said out loud. How I was holding her hand when she took her last breath. How I felt her wedding ring under my fingers and thought about all the futures we'd planned that just ended. Kendall's throat closed. She'd held him while he cried. This powerful man who never showed weakness had broken in her arms and trusted her with his grief. Then you told me about Derek. Sullivan's voice gentled. About standing in that church in your wedding dress. About how he looked at you and said he couldn't. Just couldn't. And you asked him why and he said he didn't know, he just knew you weren't enough. He didn't say that exactly. He didn't have to. The message was clear. And Kendall. Sullivan's voice turned fierce. You need to hear this. Derek was wrong. You are enough. You're more than enough. You're everything. She couldn't breathe. Couldn't think past the truth pouring through the phone at 3:30 in the morning. I kissed you, Sullivan said quietly. After you told me about Derek. After you said you'd stopped believing anyone would choose you. I kissed you because I needed you to know, someone was choosing you. I was. I am. And I kissed you back. Her voice shook. Because I'd wanted to for months. Because you looked at me like I mattered. Like I was real. You are real. We both are. And I know you're scared. I know trusting someone after they destroyed you is asking the impossible. But I'm asking anyway. He paused. Give me a chance. A real one. Let me prove this isn't grief or loneliness or fantasy. Let me show you what you already are to me. Kendall wiped her face. Stared at her dark apartment. Made a decision that terrified her. Okay. Silence. Then, okay. I'm scared. I'm so scared, Sullivan. But I don't want to run anymore. I don't want to let fear make my decisions. She swallowed hard. So okay. Yes. Let's try this. Really try. She heard his sharp inhale. The sound of relief and hope and terror all mixed together. Thank you, he breathed. God, Kendall. Thank you. But we're doing this right. Her voice steadied. I'm resigning. For real. I'll work my 2 weeks and transition everything properly. No ethical violations. No power dynamics. I'll pay you through the end of the year. Severance. Full benefits. Sullivan. Non-negotiable. You're leaving because of me. That's on me financially. His tone left no room for argument. And I'm setting up interviews with 3 companies who've been trying to poach you for months. Tech firms, all CEO-level assistant positions. Better pay than I've been giving you. Warmth spread through her chest. He'd been tracking companies trying to recruit her. Protecting her career even while falling for her. Okay, she said again. 2 weeks. Then we figure out what we are. I already know what we are. His voice dropped low. Intimate. But I'll wait for you to catch up. They talked until sunrise. About nothing and everything. About favorite movies and coffee preferences and the 1,000 small things you learn when you stop hiding. Kendall fell asleep on her couch with the phone still pressed to her ear, Sullivan's breathing steady and real on the other end. She woke 3 hours later to her alarm and a text. Good morning. Last night wasn't a dream. I'm still here. Still sure. See you in an hour. The office felt different when she arrived. Same building, same elevator, same 42nd floor. But everything had shifted. Sullivan's door was open. He stood at his windows, coffee in hand, and when he heard her footsteps he turned. Their eyes met. He smiled. Small. Real. The first genuine smile she'd seen from him in the entire 2 years she'd worked here. "Good morning, Kendall." "Good morning, Sullivan. Coffee's fresh. I made it myself." He gestured to the pot in the corner. "Fair warning, it's probably terrible. I usually rely on you or the cafe downstairs." She poured a cup. Took a sip. It was indeed terrible, too strong, slightly burnt. She drank it anyway. "It's perfect," she lied. His laugh, God, his laugh. "Rusty from disuse, but beautiful. You're a terrible liar." "One of my many flaws." "I'm making a list." Sullivan moved closer. Not touching, but present. "So far I have, bad liar, too self-sacrificing, pretends to like terrible coffee to spare feelings." That's quite a list already. "I'm just getting started. Figure I've got the rest of my life to add to it." The words hung between them, heavy with promise. Kendall set down her coffee. Looked at him directly. "I need to tell HR today. About my resignation. Make it official." Something flickered in his eyes. Sadness, maybe. Or acceptance. "I know. I'll send Marcus to handle the transition plan. He'll need to learn your systems anyway." "You're really okay with this? Me leaving?" "No." Sullivan's honesty cut clean. "I hate it. You make this place work. You make my life work. But I hate the idea of losing you more than I hate losing the best assistant I've ever had." He paused. "And for the record? I think you're capable of anything. Whatever job you take next, they're lucky to have you." Her chest ached. This man. This careful, broken, beautiful man who was choosing her. 2 weeks, she said. Then we figure out the rest. 2 weeks, he agreed. The day passed in a strange limbo. Kendall worked, scheduled meetings, handled emails, managed Sullivan's impossible calendar. But everything felt temporary now. Borrowed time before the real shift. At lunch, Rachel dragged her to the cafe 3 blocks down. "So," Rachel demanded before Kendall even sat down, "did you decide? Are you staying or going or spontaneously combusting from anxiety?" "I'm leaving." Kendall picked at her salad. "Turning in official notice today. 2 weeks, then I'm job hunting." "And Sullivan?" "We're trying. After I'm gone. When there's no ethical conflict." Rachel studied her. "You're still scared?" "Terrified." "Good." Rachel stabbed a tomato. "If you weren't scared, it wouldn't matter. Fear means you care. Means this is real." She pointed her fork at Kendall. "Just promise me one thing." "What?" "Don't sabotage it. Don't go looking for reasons to run. Derek broke your trust, I get it. But Sullivan isn't Derek. Give him a real chance to prove that." Kendall nodded. Meant it. Hoped she could follow through. That afternoon, she went to HR. Jennifer Martinez, the director, looked surprised when Kendall handed over the formal resignation letter. "You're leaving?" "Kendall, you're the best EA in the company. Is this about compensation? Because I can talk to Sullivan about a raise." "It's not about money." Kendall kept her voice steady. "It's personal. I need a change." Jennifer's eyes sharpened. "Personal. Does Sullivan know?" "He knows. And he's okay with this." The question held layers. Jennifer was smart, observant. She'd probably noticed things. Tension. Looks. The way Sullivan had been different lately. "He supports my decision," Kendall said carefully. Jennifer sat back. Tapped her pen against her desk. "Okay. 2 weeks standard notice. I'll process the paperwork. But Kendall, if there's anything you need to disclose." "There's nothing to disclose." "Not yet. Not while she was still his employee. I'm simply moving on. Clean break." The lie tasted bitter. But it was technically true. Nothing had happened while she was his assistant except one kiss during a storm, and she was leaving before anything else could complicate the ethics. Jennifer didn't look convinced, but she nodded. I'll start the exit process. Good luck with whatever's next. Kendall escaped back to her desk. Focused on work. Tried not to think about Sullivan in his office, probably feeling the weight of her departure becoming real. At 6 p.m., most of the office had cleared out. Kendall finished her last task, scheduling next week's board meeting, and started packing her bag. Kendall. Sullivan appeared in his doorway. Do you have a minute? She followed him inside. He closed the door. Didn't move to his desk, instead stood close enough that she could see the exhaustion around his eyes, the tension in his shoulders. I have something for you. He pulled an envelope from his jacket. Open it later. Not now. She took it. Thick paper. Expensive. Sealed. What is it? A letter. Things I need to say but can't figure out how. His smile was crooked. Vulnerable. I'm better with numbers than words. But you deserve words. Real ones. Kendall's fingers tightened on the envelope. Sullivan. 2 weeks. He stepped closer. His hand lifted, hesitated, then carefully tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. The touch sent electricity down her spine. I can wait 2 weeks. I'd wait longer if that's what you needed. But I need you to know, this is real for me. You are real for me. She leaned into his touch before she could stop herself. His palm cupped her cheek, warm and solid and right. It's real for me too, she whispered. That's why I'm so scared. Then we'll be scared together. He leaned down. Stopped an inch from her lips. Can I kiss you? Here now, while you're still you and I'm still me before everything changes. She should say no. Should maintain boundaries. Should be professional. She kissed him instead. His mouth was soft and warm and tasted like the coffee he'd made that morning. His hands framed her face like she was precious, fragile, something worth holding carefully. She melted into him, into the truth they'd both been avoiding for months. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Sullivan pressed his forehead to hers. 2 weeks, he murmured. Then I'm taking you to dinner. Somewhere nice. Somewhere that's not here. 2 weeks, she agreed. She left his office. Took the elevator down. Walked to her car clutching the envelope he'd given her. At home, she opened it with shaking hands. Inside, a letter. 3 pages. Sullivan's precise handwriting covering expensive stationery. Kendall. I'm not good at this. Caroline used to joke that I could calculate quantum algorithms in my head, but couldn't express an emotion to save my life. She was right. I loved her and I told her, but I don't think I ever made her feel the depth of it. That's my biggest regret, that she died not knowing how completely she changed my world. I don't want that regret with you. So here's the truth, written down because I can't trust myself to say it without faltering. You walked into my life when I was barely living. Going through motions. Existing but not present. I told myself I was fine. That work was enough. That I'd had my great love and asking for more was greedy. Then you smiled at me, really smiled, not the professional version you give everyone else, and something in my chest cracked open. I tried to ignore it. Tried to pretend you were just efficient, just good at your job, just another employee. But you weren't. You aren't. You're the person who remembers I hate conference calls before 9 a.m. Who brings me lunch when I forget to eat. Who called me at midnight when my mother had her stroke and talked me through the panic attack in my car outside the hospital. Who cried with me during that storm and didn't make me feel weak for breaking. You're the person I think about first when something good happens. The person whose opinion matters more than board approval. The person who makes me want to be better, not perfect, just better. I know you're scared. I know Derek taught you that love is unreliable, that people leave, that you're somehow not enough. But Kendall, you're the most enough person I've ever known. You're everything. And I don't know how to make you believe that except to show you. Every day. For as long as you'll let me. 2 weeks feels like forever. But I'll wait. I'll wait and then I'll spend however long it takes proving that this, us, is worth the fear. You're worth everything. Sullivan. Kendall read it 3 times. Then she cried, The good kind, the kind that releases something tight and scared and lets hope flood in. She picked up her phone. Texted, "I read your letter." 3 dots appeared immediately. Sullivan, and? Kendall, "You're better with words than you think." Sullivan, "Is that a good thing?" Kendall, "It's a very good thing. Thank you for seeing me. For choosing me." Sullivan, "Always. In every version of this, I choose you." She fell asleep that night with her phone on her pillow and hope blooming cautious in her chest. 2 weeks. She could survive 2 weeks. And then? Then they'd find out what they could be when the walls finally came down. 3 days into her 2-week notice, and the whispers started. Kendall felt them like static electricity, conversations that stopped when she entered break rooms, glances that lingered too long, the particular quality of silence that meant people were talking about you. She ignored it. Focused on her transition documents. Marcus shadowed her schedule, learning the intricate dance of managing Sullivan's calendar, his preferences, the unspoken rules that kept Whitlock Technologies running smoothly. "He likes his morning meetings at 9:15, not 9 o'clock, Kendall explained, pulling up the calendar system. "Gives him time to review overnight emails without feeling rushed. And never schedule anything important right after board meetings. He needs decompression time." Marcus scribbled notes on his tablet. "You've memorized his entire personality. That's the job." She kept her voice neutral. Professional. Knowing what someone needs before they ask. "Right. The job." Marcus looked at her with those sharp eyes that missed nothing, the same blue as his brother's but without the shadows. "Can I ask you something? Off the record." Kendall's stomach tightened. "Sure. Why are you really leaving? And don't give me the personal growth line from your resignation letter. I've worked with you for 2 years. You love this job. You're brilliant at it. Something changed." She met his gaze steadily. Lied through her teeth. "I need new challenges. This role has gone as far as it can go." "Bullshit." Marcus said it gently. Not unkindly. "But okay. Keep your secrets." He leaned back in his chair. "Just, be careful. Whatever this is, whatever's happening, people are watching. They're making assumptions." "What kind of assumptions?" "The kind that happen when a dedicated assistant suddenly quits and the CEO who hasn't smiled in 3 years can't stop looking at her like she hung the moon." Marcus's voice dropped. "I'm not blind, Kendall. Neither is anyone else in this building." Heat flooded her face. "Marcus. I'm not judging. Honestly, I'm relieved. Sullivan's been dead inside since Caroline. If you're the reason he's finally waking up, then good. He deserves to live again." Marcus stood, gathered his notes. "Just be ready. Office gossip is vicious. And when it's the CEO and his assistant, it's going to get ugly." He left her sitting at her desk, heart pounding. She pulled out her phone. Texted Sullivan, "People are noticing. Marcus just warned me about gossip." The reply came instantly, "Let them talk." 2 weeks. Then it doesn't matter. Kendall, "It matters to my reputation. To yours." Sullivan, "Your reputation is impeccable. Anyone who suggests otherwise will answer to me." She smiled despite her anxiety. Her phone buzzed again. Sullivan, "Lunch?" "Off-site. I'm going crazy in this office." Kendall hesitated. Lunch together would just fuel speculation. But she wanted to see him. Wanted to pretend for an hour that they were just 2 people, not boss and employee counting down days until they could be real. Kendall, "Where?" Sullivan, "That Italian place in the North End. The one you mentioned loving. I made a reservation." Her chest warmed. He'd remembered. A throwaway comment from months ago about her favorite restaurant, and he'd remembered. Kendall, "I'll meet you there at 12:30. Sullivan, "I'll be the one trying not to stare at you like an idiot." She laughed out loud. Drew strange looks from passing co-workers. Didn't care. Giacomo's was tucked into a side street in Boston's North End, all brick walls and candlelight and the smell of garlic and fresh bread. Kendall arrived first, tucked into a corner booth where the lighting was soft and intimate. Sullivan appeared 5 minutes later, slightly out of breath like he'd rushed. He ditched his suit jacket, rolled his shirt sleeves to his elbows. Looked younger. More alive. Hi. He slid into the booth across from her. Hi yourself. She couldn't stop smiling. You look different. Different good or different bad? Different happy. His eyes crinkled. That's because I am. First time in 3 years I'm having lunch with someone I actually want to have lunch with. What about Marcus? You have lunch with him. Marcus talks about quarterly projections and his dating life. Not exactly thrilling. Sullivan reached across the table, his fingers finding hers. This is better. She should pull away. They were in public, visible, and while her resignation was official, she was still technically his employee for 11 more days. But his hand was warm and solid and real, and she was so tired of pretending. She let him hold her hand. They ordered pappardelle for her, risotto for him. Shared a bottle of wine that was probably too expensive for Tuesday lunch. Talked about everything except work. Tell me about your mother, Sullivan said. You visit every Sunday, but you never talk about her. Kendall swirled her wine. Not much to tell. She's 58. Early onset Alzheimer's. Diagnosed 4 years ago. She paused. Some days she knows me. Most days I'm just a nice woman who visits. But I go anyway because the staff says familiar faces help, even if she doesn't remember why they're familiar. Sullivan's thumb traced circles on her palm. That must be hard. Losing someone while they're still here. It's different than your loss. But yeah, hard. She met his eyes. She was amazing before. Sharp as anything. College professor, African American literature. She used to quote Maya Angelou and Toni Morrison like they were personal friends. Now she can't remember what she had for breakfast. I'm sorry. Me too. Kendall squeezed his hand. But she taught me resilience. How to rebuild when everything falls apart. That's how I survived Derek. How I got up after that church and decided to keep going. Tell me about him. Sullivan's voice was careful. If you want. If it doesn't hurt too much. She thought about it. Realized talking about Derek didn't hurt the way it used to. The sharp edges had dulled to sad memory. We met in college. Dated on and off for 8 years. He proposed on my 29th birthday, big romantic gesture, rose petals, the works. I thought it meant he was ready. That we were finally going to build the life we'd been planning. She took a sip of wine. Wedding day came. I was in my dress, this beautiful lace thing my mother helped me pick out during one of her good periods. And Derek just looked at me. Said he couldn't. That something felt wrong. That I deserved better than someone who wasn't sure. Jesus. Sullivan's grip tightened. The worst part. Kendall's laugh was hollow. Part of me agreed with him. I'd spent 8 years trying to be enough for Derek. Trying to be what he needed. And I still wasn't. That messed with my head for a long time. He was an idiot. Maybe. Or maybe he was honest. She shrugged. Either way, it taught me to stop waiting for someone to choose me. To choose myself instead. And now. Sullivan's eyes held hers. Are you choosing yourself? Or are you choosing us? Both. The answer came easy. True. I'm choosing myself by being brave enough to try this. To risk it even though I'm scared. She turned her hand, laced their fingers together. And I'm choosing us because you make me want to believe again. Sullivan lifted her hand to his lips. Kissed her knuckles. I won't waste that. I promise. They finished lunch slowly, reluctant to return to the office where they had to pretend. Where she was still the assistant and he was still the boss and they couldn't touch, couldn't look at each other too long, couldn't be real. 11 more days, Sullivan said as they stood to leave. Then I'm taking you somewhere we don't have to hide. Where? Surprise. His smile was secretive. Playful. Trust me. She did. Terrifyingly, completely, she did. The office felt smaller when they returned. Kendall went to her desk, dove back into transition documents. Tried not to notice how Sullivan's door stayed open, how he found excuses to walk past her desk, how their eyes met and held a beat too long. By 3 p.m., she had an email from Jennifer in HR, need to see you. My office. 3:30. Kendall's stomach dropped. This couldn't be good. She knocked on Jennifer's door at exactly 3:30. The HR director looked up, expression carefully neutral. Close the door, please. Kendall did. Sat in the chair across from Jennifer's desk. Felt like she was back in high school. Called to the principal's office. I've received some concerns, Jennifer began. No preamble. No small talk. About your relationship with Sullivan Whitlock. There it was. The thing Kendall had been dreading. What kind of concerns? Her voice stayed level. Professional. The kind that suggests your resignation might not be as voluntary as you indicated. Jennifer pulled out a folder. 3 separate employees have come to me in the past 2 days. They've noticed changes in how Sullivan treats you, how you interact. They're worried there might be a hostile work environment situation. That's ridiculous. Is it? Jennifer's eyes were sharp. Because from where I'm sitting, I have an executive assistant who's been exemplary for 2 years suddenly resigning with vague reasons. A CEO who's been notably different lately, distracted, emotional, protective of you specifically. You were seen having lunch together today. Off-site. Looking quite comfortable. Kendall's hands fisted in her lap. My resignation is voluntary. Sullivan has never made me uncomfortable. There's no hostile environment. Then what is there? Jennifer leaned forward. Because I need to protect this company, Kendall. If there's been a relationship, if there's been any quid pro quo, any inappropriate conduct. There hasn't been. The lie came easier now. Nothing happened while I was his employee. Nothing that violates policy. While you were his employee. Jennifer caught the phrasing. Meaning something's planned for after? Kendall said nothing. Couldn't without confirming or denying. Jennifer sighed. Look. I like you. You're good at your job, you've never caused problems. But this puts me in a difficult position. If there's even the appearance of impropriety. Then I'll leave early. The words came fast. Desperate. You can process my resignation effective immediately. I'll forfeit my 2 weeks. Just, don't make this into something it isn't. Sullivan won't accept that. He'll have to. Kendall stood. I'll tender my immediate resignation. No severance, no drama. Clean break. That protects everyone. Jennifer studied her. You really care about him? It wasn't a question. Kendall didn't answer it anyway. I'll have the paperwork ready by end of day, Jennifer said finally. But Kendall? Whatever this is, whatever you're doing, be careful. Office romances rarely end well. And when one person has this much power over the other. She shook her head. Just be careful. Kendall left the office on shaking legs. Went straight to Sullivan's door. Knocked once and entered without waiting. He looked up from his computer, smile forming, then dying when he saw her face. What happened? HR knows. Or suspects. I don't know which. She closed the door behind her. Employees have been reporting concerns. About us. About inappropriate relationship. Sullivan stood. That's absurd. We haven't. We had lunch today. We've been different. People notice, Sullivan. She wrapped her arms around herself. I told Jennifer I'd resign immediately. Today. No 2 weeks, no transition period. Just, gone. No. He crossed to her. Absolutely not. You deserve your full notice period, your severance. I deserve to not have my reputation destroyed. Her voice cracked. This is exactly what I was afraid of. People assuming I slept my way to job security or that you coerced me or... Stop. Sullivan's hands framed her face, forcing her to look at him. Listen to me. You have done nothing wrong. I have done nothing wrong. We're 2 adults who developed feelings. That's not a crime. It is when you're my boss. I won't be in 11 days. 10 now if you, he stopped. Swore. We're doing this wrong. All of this. What do you mean? Sullivan dropped his hands. Paced to his windows. Stood there looking out at Boston like the city might have answers. I should step down, he said finally. Not in 2 weeks. Now. Today. Make you and me a non-issue by removing the power dynamic immediately. Sullivan, no. Why not? He turned to face her. Marcus is ready. The board's been pushing for succession planning anyway. I move to chairman, he takes CEO. Problem solved. You can't restructure an entire company because people are gossiping about us. Watch me. His jaw set. Stubborn. I meant what I said, Kendall. I'd give up anything for this. For you. If leaving the CEO role protects your reputation, I'm gone. She stared at him. This man who'd built an empire from nothing, who lived and breathed his company, he'd walk away. For her. Don't. She crossed to him. Put her hand on his chest, felt his heart pounding under her palm. Don't sacrifice what you've built. We'll figure this out another way. How? Good question. She didn't have a good answer. Her phone buzzed. Rachel, emergency. Conference room B, now. Kendall showed Sullivan the text. I have to go. Rachel sounds stressed. Go. We'll talk later. Figure out the next move. He caught her hand. But Kendall? I'm serious. I'll step down if that's what it takes. She kissed him. Quick. Desperate. I know. That's what scares me. Rachel was pacing in conference room B when Kendall arrived, purple-streaked hair flying as she spun. They're saying you're sleeping with Sullivan. No greeting. No preamble. Like, actively. Multiple people in R&D were talking about it. Saying you've been his mistress for months and you're only quitting now because you got caught. Kendall's stomach lurched. That's not, we haven't. I know that. You know that. But they don't care about truth. Rachel grabbed Kendall's shoulders. Office gossip is brutal. And you're black and he's white and rich and powerful, so of course people are going to make it ugly. Make it about you using him or him using you or both. The racial element. Kendall had been trying not to think about that particular complication. But Rachel was right. Interracial relationships drew extra scrutiny, extra judgment. People would have opinions. Ugly ones. What do I do? Kendall sank into a chair. Jennifer thinks I'm lying about hostile environment. Sullivan wants to resign as CEO. The whole office is watching. This is a nightmare. Okay, let's think. Rachel sat beside her. What actually happened? Give me facts. We developed feelings over the past year. 6 months ago, maybe longer. Nothing physical happened until 3 weeks ago, one kiss during a storm. That's it. I tried to resign to avoid ethical issues. He refused. We decided to try a real relationship after my notice period ended. Then today HR called me in because employees are reporting concerns. Rachel processed this. So technically, you've done nothing wrong. Technically. But it looks wrong. Feels wrong. And perception matters. Rachel drummed her fingers on the table. Here's what you do. You leave immediately like you told Jennifer. You take a job somewhere else, fast. Like within the week. Then you and Sullivan date openly but quietly. Let time pass. Let people forget. In 6 months, a year, it's just a relationship. Not a scandal. Sullivan won't agree to waiting 6 months to be public. Then Sullivan needs to understand that you're protecting both of you. Rachel's voice gentled. Look, I get it. You're finally taking a risk on love. But you're also a black woman in corporate America. Your reputation matters in ways his doesn't. You have to be smarter about this. She was right. Kendall hated it, but she was right. I'll talk to him, Kendall said finally. Figure out a plan that doesn't destroy everything. Rachel hugged her. For what it's worth. I think he's good for you. I think this is real. Just be strategic about how you handle it. Kendall returned to her desk. Started drafting her immediate resignation letter. Made it short. Professional. Effective close of business today. She was hitting send to Jennifer when Sullivan appeared. Don't. He'd clearly been watching for her return. Don't send that. I have to. It's the only way to stop the gossip. The gossip stops when I make it clear anyone spreading rumors will be terminated for harassment. His voice was cold. CEO mode. You are not leaving early. You're not forfeiting what you've earned because people can't mind their business. Sullivan. No. He crouched beside her chair. Lowered his voice. I know you're trying to protect us. Protect your reputation. But running makes it look like we have something to hide. Like we did something wrong. His eyes held hers. We didn't. We don't. So we hold our ground. People are saying I'm your mistress. That I've been sleeping with you for months. Pain flashed across his face. Then we tell the truth. Public statement. Clean and simple. That's worse. That confirms we're together, confirms everything people are assuming. It confirms we're adults who developed feelings ethically. Sullivan stood. I'm doing this. With or without your approval. Because you don't deserve this. You don't deserve to have your character attacked because I couldn't hide what I feel. He walked into his office. 30 minutes later, an email went out to the entire company. From Sullivan Whitlock to all staff personnel matter. It has come to my attention that there has been speculation regarding my executive assistant, Kendall Price, and her recent resignation. I want to be clear, Ms. Price's resignation is voluntary and for her own career advancement. She has been an exemplary employee, and any suggestion otherwise is false and will not be tolerated. Ms. Price and I have maintained a strictly professional relationship throughout her employment. Any rumors to the contrary are unfounded gossip that reflects poorly on those spreading them, not on Ms. Price. I expect all employees to treat this matter with the respect and professionalism it deserves. Harassment or defamation of any colleague, including Ms. Price, will result in disciplinary action up to and including termination. Thank you, Sullivan Whitlock CEO, Whitlock Technologies. Kendall stared at her screen. Read the email 3 times. He'd lied. Technically lied to protect her. Said their relationship was strictly professional when it hadn't been, not in their hearts, for months. Her phone buzzed. Sullivan, I know you're mad. But I won't let them destroy you. Come to my office. She did. Closed the door. You lied in that email. I protected you. No apology in his voice. Technically, we were professional. One kiss doesn't erase 2 years of appropriate conduct. Sullivan. Are you ashamed of this? Of us? The question came quiet. Hurt. What? No. Never. Then why are you fighting me on protecting what we have? He moved closer. I know the optics. I know it looks bad, rich white CEO and his black assistant. I know people will make assumptions, ugly ones. But I also know the truth. We're real. This is real. And I won't hide that or apologize for it. Kendall's eyes burned. I'm scared of what this costs you. Costs me. Costs us. Then let's be scared together. He pulled her close. 10 more days. Then we're free. But until then, we stand together. Agreed. She nodded against his chest. Felt his heartbeat steady under her cheek. Agreed. 6 days left. Kendall marked them off like a prisoner counting down a sentence. 6 more days of walking into Whitlock Technologies as Sullivan's assistant. 6 more days of careful distance and professional masks. 6 more days until they could be real. Sullivan's company-wide email had quieted the gossip. Mostly. People still watched them with curious eyes, still whispered in corners, but the open speculation had died down. Kendall kept her head high and her work flawless. But the tension was wearing on both of them. You should go home, Sullivan said at 7 p.m. on Friday night. Most of the office had cleared out hours ago. You've been here since 6 this morning. So have you. Kendall didn't look up from her computer. She was documenting every single process, every password, every detail Marcus would need. Making herself irreplaceable in writing, since she couldn't be irreplaceable in person anymore. Kendall. Sullivan appeared beside her desk. Home. Please. You look exhausted. She was. Exhausted from pretending. From maintaining walls. From wanting him and not being able to touch him outside the privacy of his office with the door locked. I'm almost done. You said that an hour ago. He glanced around. They were alone on the floor, then carefully, so carefully, tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. The touch sent sparks down her spine. Come have dinner with me. Real dinner. Not takeout at our desks. Sullivan. I know it's risky. But it's Friday night and I'm going crazy. Please. His voice dropped. I miss you. We're in the same building 40 hours a week and I miss you. She understood completely. Missed him too, even when he was 10 feet away. Where? Relief flooded his face. My place. I'll cook. Or attempt to cook. Fair warning, it might be terrible. Your place. Where they'd be alone. Truly alone. That's not exactly keeping our distance. 6 days, Kendall. I've been good. I've been patient. But I need more than stolen moments in my office. I need to actually be with you. His eyes held hers. Trust me. Please. She did. That was the problem. She trusted him completely. Okay. Your place. But I'm driving myself. Deal. Sullivan lived in a penthouse in Back Bay. Top floor, floor-to-ceiling windows, the kind of space that appeared in architectural magazines. Kendall had been here once before, dropping off documents he'd forgotten when he was sick with the flu last year. She'd stayed 5 minutes, professional and efficient. Tonight felt different. He opened the door in jeans and a soft gray sweater, barefoot, hair slightly messy like he'd been running his hands through it. Looked younger. More approachable. Less like the Billionaire CEO, and more like just Sullivan. Hi. He stepped back to let her in. Welcome. Officially, this time. The space was beautiful, but impersonal. Expensive furniture that looked barely used. Art on the walls that felt chosen by a decorator, not the owner. Everything clean and perfect and empty. Except the kitchen. The kitchen was chaos. Ingredients scattered across marble counters, pots on the stove, something that smelled amazing simmering. You're actually cooking. Kendall couldn't hide her surprise. I told you I would. Sullivan moved to the stove, stirred something. It's nothing fancy. Pasta, homemade sauce. Salad. Bread from that bakery you like in the North End. He glanced at her. Is that okay? I should have asked about dietary restrictions. It's perfect. She set down her bag. Moved to the kitchen island. Can I help? You can keep me company. And drink wine. He poured her a glass of red. I'm trying to prove I'm not completely useless outside the office. I never thought you were useless. No. His smile was crooked. You've seen me try to work the office coffee maker. It's pathetic. She laughed. Real laughter that felt good after days of tension. That's because you've had assistants your whole career. You're spoiled. Completely. He stirred the sauce. Caroline used to say I'd starve if left alone. She wasn't wrong. After she died, I lived on takeout for 6 months before Marcus staged an intervention. The mention of his late wife settled between them. Not uncomfortable, just present. Tell me about her, Kendall said softly. Really tell me. I know the facts. You met in grad school, married young, 6 years together. But who was she? Sullivan's hands stilled on the spoon. You want to know about Caroline? I want to know about the woman who made you believe in love. Who shaped who you are. Kendall sipped her wine. She's part of your story. I'm not threatened by that. He looked at her with something like wonder. Most people avoid mentioning her. Like she's a taboo subject. She's not taboo. She's your past. And your past made you who you are now. Kendall paused. Unless you don't want to talk about her. I don't want to push. No. I want to. Sullivan turned down the heat on the stove. Leaned against the counter facing her. Caroline was bright. That's the word that fits best. She lit up rooms. Made friends everywhere. She was a teacher, 3rd grade, and she loved those kids like they were her own. His voice warmed talking about her. Kendall felt a pang, not jealousy, but sadness for what he'd lost. We met at MIT. I was getting my PhD in computer science. She was getting her master's in education. Completely different worlds. But she sat next to me in a coffee shop one day and said, "You look like you need a break from whatever's making you frown at that laptop." Sullivan smiled at the memory. We talked for 4 hours. I missed a meeting. Didn't even care. Love at first sight. Something like that. Or love at first conversation. He poured himself wine. We got married 6 months later. Too fast, everyone said. But we were young and sure and nothing else mattered. What was she like? Beyond bright. Funny. Terrible jokes that somehow made you laugh anyway. She sang off-key in the shower. Cried during commercials. Collected vintage teacups she never used because they were too pretty to risk breaking. His voice caught. She wanted kids. We were trying when she got diagnosed. Stage 4 ovarian cancer. 28 years old, and they gave her 6 months. Kendall's chest tightened. "I'm so sorry." She lived 3 years. Fought like hell. Had good days and bad days and days where she couldn't get out of bed. Sullivan's eyes were distant, remembering. The last 6 months were the worst. Hospice care at home. I watched her fade. Watched this bright, beautiful person become a shadow. And I couldn't fix it. Couldn't save her. Couldn't do anything but hold her hand and tell her I loved her. You were with her when she died. Yeah. February 3, 2021. 4 years ago last week. He exhaled slowly. She waited until I was there. The hospice nurse said sometimes people do that, wait for the person they need. Her last words were, "Don't stop living." Made me promise. Tears slid down Kendall's cheeks. She didn't wipe them away. I broke that promise, Sullivan continued. For 3 years, I just existed. Went through motions. Built the company bigger because work I could control. Work made sense. But living? I forgot how. Until. Kendall prompted gently. Until you. His eyes found hers. Until a rainy night when I finally admitted I'd been half alive for 3 years and maybe, I was ready to try again. Kendall set down her wine. Crossed to him. Put her hands on his chest. Felt his heart beating steady and strong. "She'd want you to be happy," she said. "To really live. Not just exist." I know. Doesn't make it less terrifying. His arms came around her. Loving you feels like betraying her. But not loving you feels like betraying myself. And I don't know how to reconcile that. You don't have to choose between honoring her memory and moving forward. Kendall looked up at him. You can carry her with you and still open your heart to something new. Those things don't cancel each other out. How'd you get so wise? Therapy. Lots of therapy after Derek. She smiled slightly. My therapist said something that helped. The heart doesn't replace people. It just expands to hold more. Loving again doesn't erase who you loved before. Sullivan's forehead pressed to hers. I wish Caroline could have met you. She would have liked you. Probably would have tried to set us up, actually. She was always trying to fix people's love lives. Yeah. She had this theory that the right people find each other eventually. That the universe conspires. He smiled. I thought it was nonsense. Romantic fantasy. But now. He kissed her softly. Maybe she was right. They stood there in his kitchen, holding each other while pasta simmered and the city lights glittered outside the windows. Kendall felt the weight of his grief, his love for Caroline, his fear of moving forward. Felt all of it and didn't flinch. Dinner's going to burn, she murmured eventually. Don't care. But he pulled back anyway, returned to the stove. Almost ready. You hungry? Starving. They ate at his dining table, a massive thing that could seat 12 but felt intimate with just the two of them. The pasta was actually good, the sauce rich with garlic and herbs. They talked about everything. About her college years, his startup days, places they wanted to travel, books they loved, the small details you learn when you're building something real. I've never been to Europe, Kendall admitted. Derek kept promising we'd go for our honeymoon. Obviously, that didn't happen. Where would you want to go? If you could go anywhere. Italy. Rome, Florence, the Amalfi Coast. All the cliché tourist spots. She smiled. I want to eat pasta in the place pasta was invented. See art in person instead of in books. Walk on cobblestones that are older than America. Let's go. Sullivan said it casually. Like it was simple. What? Let's go to Italy. This summer. 2 weeks. I'll show you Rome. I went for a conference years ago. We'll eat too much pasta and drink too much wine and you can see all the art you want. Sullivan, I can't, that's too much. Why? He leaned forward. I have the money. You deserve a vacation. We both do. Why not? Because that's the kind of thing you do with someone you've been dating for months, not someone you're just starting with. Who says we're just starting? His voice was quiet. Sure. I've been falling for you for a year, Kendall. Maybe longer. The official dating part is new, but us? We've been building this for a long time. Her heart did something complicated in her chest. You're serious. About Italy. Completely. But only if you want to. No pressure. He paused. I just want to give you things. Experiences. Joy. All the things you deserve. I don't need expensive trips. I know. That's why I want to give them to you. Sullivan reached across the table, laced their fingers together. You don't need anything from me. You're successful and capable and whole on your own. But I want to share things with you. Build memories. Show you the world. Is that okay? It was more than okay. It was everything. Ask me again in 3 months, Kendall said. If we're still good. If this is still real. Ask me about Italy. Deal. His thumb traced circles on her palm. 3 months. July. Italy. I'm putting it in my calendar. They finished dinner. Moved to his couch with more wine. Sat close but not quite touching, a careful distance that felt both safe and insufficient. Can I ask you something? Sullivan set down his glass. About Derek. About that day. Okay. Do you still love him? The question surprised her. No. I don't think I ever really loved him the right way. I loved the idea of him. The future we'd planned. But him, the actual person. She considered. I'm not sure I knew him well enough to love him. We were together 8 years, but I don't think we ever got past surface level. What do you mean? He never asked deep questions. Never wanted to know about my fears or dreams or the things that kept me up at night. We just coexisted. Went through motions of a relationship without the actual intimacy. Kendall looked at Sullivan. With you, it's different. You see me. The real me. The messy, scared, complicated me. And you don't run. Why would I run? That's the best part. His hand found her face. You're not a project to fix or a problem to solve. You're just, you. And that's everything I want. She kissed him. Slow and deep and real. His arms came around her, pulling her closer. She melted into him, into the truth that this was different. Better. Real in ways Derek never was. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Sullivan pressed his forehead to hers. Stay, he whispered. Tonight. Just sleep. I just want to hold you. Every logical part of her brain screamed no. She was still his employee for 6 more days. This was exactly the kind of thing that would make the gossip worse if anyone found out. But she was tired of logic. Tired of walls. Tired of denying what she wanted. Okay, she breathed. I'll stay. Sullivan's bedroom was as impersonal as the rest of the penthouse. King bed with gray linens. Minimal furniture. Nothing on the walls. Like a hotel room, not a home. He saw her looking. I know. It's depressing. Caroline decorated our old place. After she died, I sold everything. Moved here. Started over with nothing that reminded me of her. He paused. Probably not healthy, We can change it. The words came without thinking. Make it feel like yours. Like a home. Ours, he corrected. If you're going to be here, it should feel like ours. The assumption that she'd be here, regularly, permanently, should have scared her. Instead it felt right. Sullivan lent her a t-shirt. MIT logo faded from washing. She changed in his bathroom, emerged to find him in sleep pants and nothing else. His chest was lean, defined, with a scar running along his ribs. She touched it without thinking. What's this from? Car accident. College drunk driver hit me while I was on my bike. His hand covered hers. Broke 3 ribs, punctured a lung. Caroline sat with me in the hospital for 2 days straight. That's when I knew I was going to marry her. So many scars. Physical and emotional. All the ways life marks you. They got into bed. Sullivan pulled her close, her back to his chest, his arm around her waist. Safe. Warm. Right. This okay? He murmured into her hair. Perfect. And it was. No expectations. No pressure. Just being together. She should have felt awkward. Should have been hyper-aware of his body against hers, of the intimacy of sharing a bed. Instead she felt peaceful. Like pieces clicking into place. Kendall. His voice was sleepy. Thank you. For staying. For not running. For giving this a real chance. Thank you for seeing me. She laced her fingers through his. For choosing me. Always. He kissed her shoulder. In every version of this, I choose you. She fell asleep in his arms, feeling safer than she had in years. Kendall woke to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows and Sullivan's arm still around her waist. For a moment, she didn't remember where she was. Then it all came flooding back. Dinner, conversation, the choice to stay. She should feel panicked. Should be scrambling to leave before anyone saw her car in his building's garage. Instead she felt content. Sullivan stirred behind her. Morning. His voice was rough with sleep. Morning. She turned in his arms to face him. His hair was messy, face unguarded, eyes soft. Beautiful. Sleep okay? Better than I have in weeks. True. She'd slept straight through, no anxiety dreams, no waking up at 3 a.m. replaying worst-case scenarios. Good. He smiled. Kissed her forehead. I make terrible coffee but decent breakfast. Want to stay? She should go. Should maintain distance. Should be smart. I'd love to. They made breakfast together. Or rather, Sullivan made eggs and toast while Kendall sat on the counter and talked. Easy. Comfortable. Like they'd been doing this for years instead of one night. 5 days left, Sullivan said, plating food. Then you're free. Then we're both free. I've been thinking. He handed her a plate. About what happens after. About us. Yeah. I want to do this right. Real dates. Meeting each other's people. Building something that lasts. He leaned against the counter. But I also know there's going to be judgment. Comments. People who think you're with me for money or I'm using you for, he stopped. Shook his head. I need you to know none of that matters to me. What people think, what they say. You're all that matters. Kendall set down her fork. It matters to me. My reputation, my career. I can't just ignore what people think. I know. And I'll do everything I can to protect that. But Kendall. His eyes held hers. I'm not hiding you. I'm not pretending this doesn't exist because people might judge. I spent 3 years hiding from life. I'm done hiding. I'm not asking you to hide. I'm asking you to be strategic. She chose her words carefully. We're interracial, you're wealthy, I was your assistant. People are going to make assumptions. Ugly ones. We need to be prepared for that. So we prove them wrong. Sullivan moved closer. We be so fucking happy that their opinions don't matter. We build something so real that gossip just looks petty in comparison. She wanted that. Wanted to believe it could be that simple. Okay, she said. We try. We be happy. We don't hide, but we don't feed the drama either. Deal. He kissed her. Soft and sweet and full of promise. They spent the morning together. Talked about everything and nothing. Kendall told him about her college roommate who became a marine biologist and sent her pictures of sea turtles. Sullivan told her about Marcus's terrible taste in women and his own terrible attempts at matchmaking. At noon, Kendall finally made herself leave. Drove home in Saturday traffic, replaying the last 18 hours. Dinner. Conversation. Sleeping in his arms. Breakfast. All of it real and right and terrifying. Her phone buzzed at a red light. Sullivan, already miss you. Is that pathetic? Kendall, only if me missing you too is pathetic. Sullivan, want to do something tonight? Dinner? Movie? Anything? She should say no. Should pace themselves. But she wanted more time with him. Wanted all the time. Kendall, movie at my place? I'll make dinner. Sullivan, perfect. Text me your address. What time? Kendall, 7. And Sullivan? Bring overnight stuff. If you want. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Sullivan, are you sure? Kendall, 5 days left of pretending. I don't want to waste them. Sullivan, I'll be there at 7. With overnight stuff. And probably flowers because I'm that guy now apparently. She smiled the whole drive home. 3 days left. Kendall walked into Whitlock Technologies Monday morning feeling lighter than she had in weeks. The weekend with Sullivan had been perfect. Movie nights at her apartment, lazy mornings in bed, conversations that stretched for hours. They were building something real. Something that felt like it might actually last. She should have known better than to relax. Marcus was waiting at her desk when she arrived. His expression was serious. Worried. We need to talk. He glanced around. Early morning, most of the floor still empty. My office. Now. Kendall's stomach dropped. What's wrong? Not here. He walked away, expecting her to follow. She did. Marcus's office was smaller than Sullivan's Messier, with sports memorabilia on the shelves and a photo of him and Sullivan as kids on his desk. He closed the door behind her, gestured for her to sit. I'm going to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me. Marcus leaned against his desk, arms crossed. Are you in love with my brother? The question landed like a fist. Kendall's carefully prepared deflections died in her throat. That's not. Kendall. Marcus's voice was gentle. Not angry. Sad, maybe. I've known Sullivan my whole life. I've watched him shut down after Caroline died. Watched him become a ghost. And in the past few weeks, I've watched him come back to life. Because of you. She said nothing. Couldn't confirm. Couldn't deny. I'm not judging, Marcus continued. Honestly, I'm relieved. He deserves to be happy again. You both do. But. He pulled out his phone. Showed her a photo. Kendall's blood turned to ice. It was her and Sullivan. Saturday night. Leaving her apartment building together. His arm around her waist, her face turned up toward his, both of them smiling. Clearly intimate. Clearly together. Where did you get this? Her voice came out strangled. It's on a gossip blog. Posted yesterday. Billionaire CEO Sullivan Whitlock spotted with mystery woman. Sources say she's his former assistant. Marcus set down the phone. It has 20,000 shares. People are connecting the dots, Kendall. Your resignation, the timing, this photo. They're putting together a story. We weren't doing anything wrong. I resigned. I'm not his employee anymore in 3 days. I know that. You know that. But the internet doesn't care about technicalities. Marcus's jaw tightened. There are comments. Bad ones. People saying you slept your way to job security. That Sullivan coerced you. That this is a power imbalance situation disguised as romance. Nausea rolled through her. Let me see. Kendall. Let me see. She grabbed his phone. The comments were worse than she'd imagined. Hundreds of them. Strangers dissecting her life, her choices, her character. Of course she's black. He's got a fetish. She's clearly a gold digger. Probably got pregnant to trap him. Rich white men always think they can buy black women. Disgusting. Poor guy lost his wife and this opportunist swooped in. Predatory. Secretary to mistress pipeline. Tale as old as time. Kendall's hands shook. She set down the phone before she dropped it. I'm sorry. Marcus's voice was quiet. I wanted to warn you before you saw it from someone else. Before it gets worse. How does it get worse than this? The board meets this afternoon. Emergency session. He grimaced. Someone sent them the article. They're concerned about company image. About Sullivan's judgment. They're going to ask questions. About us. About the ethics of the situation. About whether Sullivan violated company policy. About whether this creates liability for Whitlock Technologies. Marcus moved to his window, stared out at Boston. I've already had 3 board members call me. They want to know if Sullivan's relationship affected your employment. If there was quid pro quo. If the company needs legal protection. Kendall stood on shaking legs. I need to talk to Sullivan. He's already dealing with it. Locked in his office with our lawyers since 6 this morning. Marcus turned to face her. Kendall, I need you to understand something. The board has been looking for reasons to push Sullivan into a chairman role for years. This gives them ammunition. They'll say his personal life is affecting professional judgment. They'll force a transition. He'd step down anyway. He told me he would. Stepping down voluntarily is different than being forced out by the board. Marcus's voice was hard. One looks like succession planning. The other looks like a scandal. And Sullivan doesn't deserve that. Not after everything he's built. The guilt hit like a wave. This was her fault. Her presence in Sullivan's life was destroying everything he'd worked for. What do I do? She whispered. Marcus studied her. You really love him. Yes. The truth came easy now. Too late, but easy. I love him. Then you fight for him. You stand beside him while the board asks invasive questions and the internet tears you apart and people make assumptions about who you are and why you're together. He paused. Or you walk away. Make it clear this was nothing serious. Protect his reputation by removing yourself from the equation. Walk away. Save Sullivan from the fallout. Prove the gossip wrong by ending things before they really started. The smart choice. The safe choice. The choice that would destroy her. I need to see him. Kendall moved to the door. He told the lawyers not to let anyone in. I don't care. She was already in the hallway, heading for Sullivan's office. His door was closed. Voices inside, Sullivan's, strained and angry, and 2 others she didn't recognize. The lawyers, probably. She knocked. Hard. The voices stopped. Footsteps. The door opened to reveal Sullivan, looking like he hadn't slept. Tie loosened, hair messy from his hands running through it, exhaustion carved into his face. Kendall. Relief and pain mixed in his voice. You saw. I saw. She glanced at the 2 lawyers watching them with professional interest. Can we talk? Alone. Sullivan looked at the lawyers. Give us 10 minutes. They left. Kendall stepped inside. The door closed behind her with a sound like finality. I'm so sorry. Sullivan's voice cracked. I should have been more careful. Should have thought about photographers, about privacy. This isn't your fault. It's absolutely my fault. I knew this would happen. Knew people would judge, would make assumptions. But I thought, he laughed bitterly. I thought we had more time before it blew up. Kendall crossed to him. Put her hands on his chest. Marcus told me about the board meeting. Of course he did. Sullivan covered her hands with his. They're going to ask questions. About us, about your employment, about ethics. Our lawyers are preparing responses, but... He exhaled. It's bad, Kendall. They're talking about forcing me out. Using this as proof I'm not fit to lead the company. Then let them. The words came before she could stop them. Let them force you out. Step down. Walk away. You don't mean that. I do. She looked up at him. You've been saying you'd give up anything for this. For us. Now's your chance to prove it. Kendall. Or I walk away. Her voice steadied. I end this now. Make a statement that we're not together, that the photo was misconstrued. I disappear from your life and the scandal dies. No. The word came fierce. Final. Absolutely not. It would solve everything. The board backs off, your reputation stays intact. And I lose you. Sullivan's hands framed her face. That's not solving anything. That's destroying the only good thing I've had in 3 years. Your company is just a company. His eyes blazed. You think I care more about board approval than you? You think anything matters more than this? Than us? It should. Tears burned her eyes. You built Whitlock Technologies from nothing. You can't throw that away because of me. Watch me. He kissed her. Hard. Desperate. I told you I'd choose you. I meant it. She kissed him back, tasting salt, her tears or his, she couldn't tell. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, she pressed her forehead to his. What do we do? She whispered. We tell the truth. Sullivan's voice steadied. We go into that board meeting and we're honest. We developed feelings over time. We handled it ethically by you resigning. We're together now and we're not apologizing for it. They'll crucify you. Probably. But I'll survive. His thumb wiped away her tears. We'll survive. Together. A knock on the door. One of the lawyers stuck his head in. Mr. Whitlock, we need to prepare. Board meetings in 2 hours. Sullivan nodded. Looked at Kendall. Stay. Please. I need you here. She should go. Should let him handle this without her presence complicating things further. But she couldn't leave him to face this alone. I'll stay. The 2 hours before the board meeting were brutal. Lawyers prepped Sullivan on what to say, what not to say, how to frame the relationship in the least damaging way possible. Kendall sat in the corner, listening, feeling increasingly like a problem to be managed rather than a person. Emphasized that Ms. Price resigned voluntarily before any romantic relationship began, the lead lawyer, a severe woman named Patricia, instructed. Make it clear there was no quid pro quo, no abuse of power. Because there wasn't, Sullivan said flatly. We know that. But we need the board to know that. They're going to ask invasive questions. About the timeline, about physical intimacy, about whether your judgment was compromised. Patricia glanced at Kendall. Ms. Price, you should leave before the meeting. Your presence will only inflame things. She stays. Sullivan's tone left no room for argument. Mr. Whitlock. She stays. He looked at Kendall. Unless you want to go. It's your choice. Kendall stood. I'm not going anywhere. Patricia sighed. Against my advice, but fine. Just don't speak unless directly addressed. And Ms. Price? They're going to say terrible things. About you, about your motivations. Try not to react. Easier said than done. The board meeting took place in the large conference room on the 43rd floor. 12 board members, plus Sullivan, Marcus, the lawyers, and Kendall. She sat against the wall, technically not part of the meeting but impossible to ignore. Richard Blackwell, the board chairman, 72, silver hair, old Boston money, called the meeting to order. We're here to discuss recent developments regarding CEO Sullivan Whitlock's personal conduct and its impact on company operations. His voice was formal. Cold. Mr. Whitlock, you're aware of the photograph circulating online? I am. Sullivan sat at the head of the table, perfectly composed. Only Kendall could see the tension in his shoulders, the tight grip of his hands under the table. And you acknowledge that the woman in the photograph is Kendall Price, your former executive assistant? Yes. Ms. Price resigned February 14th. The photograph was taken February 22nd. 8 days later. Richard steepled his fingers. That's quite a rapid transition from professional to personal relationship. The romantic relationship began after her resignation was official, Sullivan said. There was no overlap in employment and personal involvement. But feelings don't develop overnight. This from Martha Chun, the CFO. When did you first become attracted to Ms. Price? Patricia jumped in. That's not relevant to company operations. It's absolutely relevant. Richard's voice sharpened. We need to understand if Sullivan's judgment was compromised while Ms. Price was his employee. If decisions were made based on personal feelings rather than professional merit. My judgment was never compromised. Sullivan's voice stayed level. Kendall was an exceptional employee who earned her position through skill and dedication. My personal feelings, which I didn't act on while she was employed, had no bearing on her job performance or compensation. But you had feelings. Martha pressed. For how long? Sullivan met her gaze steadily. Several months. I recognized the conflict and handled it appropriately by waiting until she was no longer my employee before pursuing a relationship. Except you're the reason she's no longer your employee. David Kim, head of operations, leaned forward. She resigned because of the relationship. That creates an ethical problem. You put her in a position where she had to choose between her career and your interest in her. That's not what happened, Sullivan started. Isn't it? Richard cut him off. Ms. Price was your assistant for nearly 2 years. Excellent performance reviews. Rising salary. Clear career trajectory. Then suddenly she resigns with vague reasons and 8 days later she's photographed leaving your apartment building. He looked directly at Kendall. Ms. Price, did Sullivan pressure you to resign? No. Kendall's voice came out stronger than she felt. I resigned because continuing in the role created an ethical conflict I wasn't comfortable with. That was my choice. A choice made necessary by Sullivan's feelings for you. Martha's tone was sharp. Feelings he shouldn't have developed for a subordinate in the first place. Feelings aren't a policy violation, Patricia interjected. Acting on them while there's a reporting relationship is. Mr. Whitlock didn't act on his feelings until Ms. Price was no longer his employee. Technically true. Richard's smile was thin. But optics matter. The internet thinks this is a power imbalance story. Media outlets are calling for comment. We've had 3 major clients express concerns about Whitlock Technologies' leadership and corporate culture. Sullivan's jaw tightened. This is a private matter. Nothing is private when you're the face of a billion-dollar company. Richard's voice turned hard. Your personal life affects our reputation. Your judgment affects our bottom line. And this situation, regardless of the technical ethics, looks bad, Sullivan. It looks like the CEO used his position to start a relationship with his assistant. That's the story being told, whether it's true or not. Then we correct the story, Sullivan said. We release a statement. Make it clear the relationship began ethically, with appropriate boundaries. Or, Richard said slowly, you step down. Move to chairman. Let Marcus take over as CEO. Remove yourself from day-to-day operations and the ethical concerns disappear. There it was. The real agenda. You've been looking for an excuse to push me out for years, Sullivan said flatly. This just gave you the ammunition. We've been suggesting succession planning for years, Richard corrected. You're 38, Sullivan. You built this company from nothing, and it's been your whole life. But that's not sustainable. We need leadership that's focused, not distracted by personal drama. I'm not distracted. You're in love. Martha's voice softened slightly. That's not a criticism. But it changes priorities. Caroline's illness consumed you for 3 years, understandably. You buried yourself in work after she died. Now you're emerging from grief and starting a new relationship. Those are all major life transitions that affect professional judgment. Kendall wanted to scream. Wanted to stand up and tell them all that Sullivan was the most brilliant, focused, dedicated leader she'd ever seen. That his capacity to love deeply didn't diminish his professional capability, it enhanced it. But Patricia's warning echoed, don't speak unless directly addressed. I'm not stepping down. Sullivan's voice was steel. I built this company. I've led it through economic downturns, tech disruptions, and 3 years of personal hell. My relationship with Kendall doesn't change my ability to lead. Then put it to a vote. Richard looked around the table. All in favor of requesting Sullivan Whitlock's resignation as CEO, effective immediately? 7 hands went up. 7 out of 12. Kendall's heart stopped. Marcus's hand stayed down. So did 4 others. But 7 was enough. Motion carries. Richard's face was impassive. Sullivan, we're requesting your resignation as CEO. You can stay on as chairman, maintain your board seat, but day-to-day operations transition to Marcus effective March 1st. 4 days from now. You can't do this. Sullivan's voice shook. Not with fear. With rage. I have majority voting shares, which you can exercise at the next shareholder meeting in June. Richard cut him off. But the board has authority over executive appointments. You can fight this, drag it through legal battles, make it ugly. Or you can step down gracefully and we all move forward professionally. Silence. Heavy and horrible. Sullivan looked at Marcus. You knew about this. I suspected. Marcus's voice was quiet. Richard called me last night. Asked if I'd be willing to step up if it came to a vote. And you said yes. I said I'd do what's best for the company. Marcus met his brother's eyes. You know I never wanted this. But if they're forcing you out anyway, better me than someone who doesn't care about what you built. Betrayal flashed across Sullivan's face. He stood. I need time to think. You have until end of business today, Richard said. We need a decision. Sullivan walked out. Kendall jumped up to follow him. Patricia caught her arm. Let him process, the lawyer murmured. He needs space. He needs me. Right now, you're the reason he's losing his company. Patricia's voice wasn't unkind. Just honest. Give him an hour. Let him decide if you're worth it. The words hit like a slap. Kendall pulled her arm free. Left the conference room. Didn't follow Sullivan. Patricia was probably right about that. Instead she went to the bathroom, locked herself in a stall, and let herself fall apart. This was her fault. Her presence in Sullivan's life had destroyed everything. The board was right, optics mattered, and the optics of their relationship were terrible. Rich white CEO, black former assistant, power dynamics and gossip, and $1 billion company's reputation on the line. She should end it. Walk away. Give Sullivan back his company and his focus and his life without complications. Her phone buzzed. Rachel saw the news. Are you okay? Where are you? Kendall, Whitlock. Board just forced Sullivan to resign as CEO. Rachel, what? Kendall, because of me. Because of us. Rachel, that's bullshit. Where's Sullivan? Kendall, don't know. His office, probably. They told me to give him space. Rachel, fuck that. Go to him. He needs you. Kendall, what if I'm the problem? What if he's better off without me? Rachel, don't you dare. Don't you dare let those bored assholes make you think you're not worth it. Sullivan chose you. Now you choose him back. Kendall stared at her phone. Rachel was right. Sullivan had fought for her. For them. Now it was her turn. She left the bathroom. Went straight to Sullivan's office. Didn't knock. Just walked in. He stood at his windows, back to the door. Shoulders rigid. When he heard her enter, he didn't turn. They gave me until 5 to decide, he said quietly. Step down gracefully or fight and make it ugly. What do you want to do? She moved closer. I want to burn it all down. His laugh was bitter. I want to tell Richard and his cronies to fuck themselves. I want to fight this and win and prove that my personal life has nothing to do with my professional capability. But Marcus is right. Fighting makes it worse. Makes it a story. Drags you through more scrutiny. He finally turned. His eyes were red-rimmed. If I fight, you suffer. If I step down, at least it ends quietly. Kendall crossed to him. Put her hands on his chest. Don't step down for me. If you want to fight, fight. I can handle scrutiny. Can you? Can you handle weeks or months of media attention? Of people dissecting our relationship, making assumptions about who you are and why we're together? His voice cracked. I can't protect you from that, Kendall. I can't make it stop. I don't need you to protect me. She held his gaze. I need you to trust me. Trust that I'm strong enough to stand beside you through this. You shouldn't have to be. Sullivan's hands covered hers. This is my failure. I should have been smarter, more careful. Should have waited longer before going public. We weren't public. Someone took a photo outside my apartment. We weren't doing anything wrong. It doesn't matter. The damage is done. He pulled away. Paced. Maybe they're right. Maybe I am distracted. Maybe falling in love has compromised my judgment. Stop. Kendall's voice sharpened. Don't let them make you question this. Question us. You are not distracted. You are not compromised. You're just finally living again. At what cost? He gestured at the office. My company. My reputation. Your career. God, Kendall, you're going to be known as the woman who brought down Sullivan Whitlock. How is that fair to you? I don't care about fair. She moved to him, grabbed his face, made him look at her. I care about you. About us. And if the cost of us is your CEO title, then that's a cost I'm willing to pay. But only if you are. His eyes searched hers. You'd really stand beside me through this? Through the gossip and the judgment and the ugliness. I'd stand beside you through anything. The truth poured out. I love you, Sullivan. I'm in love with you. And I'm not walking away because some board members think our relationship is bad optics. You love me. He said it like he couldn't quite believe it. Yes. I love you. Tears slid down her cheeks. I'm terrified and it's messy and the timing is terrible, but yes. I love you. Sullivan kissed her. Deep and desperate and real. When they broke apart, he rested his forehead against hers. I love you too, he breathed. God, Kendall. I love you so much it scares me. So what do we do? He pulled back. Looked at her. We fight. We tell Richard and the board that I'm not stepping down without a fight. We make them drag me out if they want me gone that badly. You're sure? I've never been more sure of anything. His voice steadied. I built this company. I'm not giving it up without a fight. And I'm not giving you up at all. She kissed him again. Then let's fight. Sullivan called Richard at 4 p.m. Put him on speaker so Kendall could hear. I'm not resigning, Sullivan said simply. If the board wants me out, you'll have to force it. And I will fight that decision with every legal and financial resource I have. Richard's sigh came through the phone. Sullivan, don't make this ugly. You made it ugly when you gave me an ultimatum over my personal life. Sullivan's voice was steel. I've led this company to record profits 3 years running. I've never missed a target, never failed a fiduciary duty. You're forcing me out over a photograph of me with my girlfriend. That's not professional judgment. That's personal vendetta. The board disagrees. Then the board can explain to shareholders in June why they removed a profitable CEO over a consensual adult relationship. Sullivan smiled grimly. I'm betting shareholders care more about their dividends than who I'm dating. Silence. Then, you're making a mistake. Maybe. But it's my mistake to make. Sullivan ended the call. Looked at Kendall. No going back now, he said. No going back, she agreed. They stood together in his office as the sun set over Boston, both knowing the fight ahead would be brutal. But they'd face it together. And maybe, that would be enough. Kendall's last official day at Whitlock Technologies arrived like a storm she'd been watching gather for weeks. The office felt different. Tense. Word had spread about Sullivan's refusal to step down, about the board standoff, about the CEO who'd chosen love over an easy exit. People watched them with renewed curiosity, some sympathetic, others judgmental, all fascinated by the drama unfolding on the 42nd floor. Kendall arrived at 7 a.m. to find her desk covered in flowers. Not from Sullivan this time, from the staff. Small bouquets, handwritten notes, tokens of appreciation from 2 years of making their lives easier. You'll be missed. Good luck with everything. Amanda, accounting. Best EA this company ever had. Don't be a stranger. R&D team. Rooting for you both. Love wins. Rachel, obviously. That last one made her smile through threatening tears. Sullivan's door was already open. He stood at his windows, his usual spot when thinking through impossible problems. When he heard her footsteps, he turned. Last day. His voice was rough, like he hadn't slept. Last day, she confirmed. They'd barely seen each other the past 3 days. Sullivan had been in constant meetings with lawyers, preparing for the legal battle with the board. Kendall had been finishing her transition docs, training Marcus on systems, tying up 2 years of work into neat packages someone else could manage. And they'd both been drowning in media attention. The photograph had gone viral. Tech blogs, business news, even mainstream media picked up the story. Billionaire CEO's romance with former assistant sparks board crisis. Headlines ranged from sympathetic to salacious, and the comment sections were war zones. Kendall had stopped reading them after the first day. Stopped checking Twitter, Instagram, anywhere strangers could dissect her life and motivations. Rachel had physically taken her phone away Wednesday night and forced her to eat Thai food and watch terrible reality TV instead. But she couldn't hide from reality forever. And today, reality meant walking away from this job and this building and into whatever came next. I have something for you. Sullivan pulled an envelope from his desk. Not the resignation letter she'd given him 2 weeks ago, something else. Open it later. After you leave. When you're ready. She took it. Thick paper. Sealed. What is it? A beginning. His smile was sad. Or an ending. Depending on what you decide. Before she could ask what he meant, Marcus appeared in the doorway. Morning. He looked between them. Kendall, ready for our final walkthrough? Want to make sure I've got everything before you escape. Sure. She glanced at Sullivan. I'll be back. The next 4 hours were a blur. Marcus asked detailed questions about calendar management, vendor relationships, Sullivan's preferences, and quirks. Kendall answered everything, documented everything, tried not to think about how this was really ending. At noon, the executive team gathered in the main conference room for Kendall's farewell. Someone had ordered lunch, fancy sandwiches from the place she liked. People made speeches. Thanked her for her dedication. Wished her luck. Sullivan stood in the back, silent. Their eyes met across the room and held. So much unsaid in that look. So much riding on what happened next. Rachel cornered her afterward. You okay? Ask me tomorrow. Kendall's voice was shaky. When I figure out what my life looks like without this job. Your life looks like freedom. Rachel hugged her tight. Freedom to be with Sullivan without ethics complaints. Freedom to find work you actually chose instead of work you took to rebuild after Derek. Freedom to be happy, babe. That's what this is. Kendall hoped she was right. At 4 p.m., she packed her personal items into a box. 2 years of accumulated things, photos, a coffee mug Rachel had given her as a joke, the good pens Sullivan kept ordering because she mentioned once she preferred them. Small pieces of a life she was leaving behind. Sullivan appeared at her desk. Can we talk? My office. One last time. She followed him in. He closed the door. Locked it. I need to tell you something, he said without preamble. Before you leave. Before anything else happens. Okay. The board meeting is Monday. They're voting on whether to force me out. My lawyers say I have a case, but it's not guaranteed. He paced. Couldn't seem to stand still. If I lose everything. The CEO position, my control over the company, probably my board seat eventually. Everything I built. Sullivan. Let me finish. Please. He stopped pacing. Looked at her directly. If that happens, I need you to know it was worth it. You were worth it. This, us, was worth every single consequence. Her throat tightened. Don't say that like it's over. I'm saying it in case it gets harder before it gets better. He moved closer. The media attention, the gossip, the judgment, it's going to get worse. When the board votes, it becomes public. Our relationship becomes headline news. People will dig into your past, my past, make assumptions about who we are and what this means. I know. She did. Had been bracing for it. And I need to know you're ready for that. Because I can handle losing the company. I can handle public scrutiny. But I cannot handle losing you. His voice cracked. So if this is too much, if you want out before it gets worse, tell me now. Give me a chance to prepare. Kendall studied his face. Saw the fear there. The vulnerability. This man who commanded boardrooms and built empires, terrified she'd walk away. Open your gift, she said. The envelope you gave me this morning. Open it now. I told you to wait. Open it. She crossed her arms. If you want to know where I stand, open it. Sullivan pulled the envelope from his desk drawer. Opened it with shaking hands. Inside, a letter. Her handwriting. 3 pages. His eyes scanned the first few lines. Stopped. Looked at her with wonder. You wrote this when? His voice was barely audible. Last night. Couldn't sleep. Needed to get it all out. She moved closer. Read it. All of it. He did. She watched emotions chase across his face. Surprise, joy, pain, hope. When he finished, he set the letter down carefully. You mean this? Not a question. A confirmation. Every word. Sullivan crossed to her. Pulled her close. Say it again. Out loud. I love you. The words came easy now. True and certain. I'm in love with you, Sullivan Whitlock. The board can vote however they want. The media can say whatever they want. The internet can judge and gossip and make assumptions. None of it matters because I'm choosing you. In every version of this story, I choose you. He kissed her like she was oxygen. Like she was everything. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, he pressed his forehead to hers. I have something to show you too. He pulled out his phone. Opened an email. Handed it to her. It was addressed to the board. Dated this morning. Unsent. Kendall read it. Her heart stopped. Dear board members. Effective immediately, I am resigning as CEO of Whitlock Technologies. This decision is mine alone, made not under duress but from clarity about my priorities. I built this company from nothing. Poured everything into making it successful. And I'm proud of what we've accomplished together. But I've also learned something in the past month that I should have understood years ago. Success means nothing if you're not living. I spent 3 years in grief so deep I forgot how to be human. I convinced myself that work was enough. That building something lasting professionally could substitute for building something real personally. I was wrong. Kendall Price changed that. She reminded me what it means to be alive. To feel. To hope. To want a future that includes more than quarterly earnings and board meetings. And I will not sacrifice her, for a title or a company or anything else. I'm stepping down because I choose love. I choose life. I choose the woman who makes me want to be better, do better, live better. And I'm not apologizing for that choice. Marcus will make an excellent CEO. The company is in capable hands. And I'll still be here as chairman, still invested in our success. But my first priority is no longer this company. It's the woman I love and the life we're building together. Thank you for the opportunity to lead Whitlock Technologies. I'm proud of what we've built. But I'm more proud of who I'm becoming. Sincerely, Sullivan Whitlock. Kendall looked up at him, tears streaming down her face. You wrote this. Last night. Like you. Couldn't sleep either. His smile was crooked. I was going to send it Monday. Before the vote. Take away their power by choosing to leave. Sullivan, you can't. I can. I am. He took the phone back. I'm done fighting for something that makes me miserable. I built this company because I needed purpose after Caroline died. It saved me then. But I don't need saving anymore. I need you. What about everything you worked for? Everything you built? Still mine. I'm not losing the company. I'm stepping back from day-to-day operations. I'll still have my shares, my board seat, my say in major decisions. He cupped her face. But I won't have the 80-hour weeks. Won't have the constant pressure. Won't have the board controlling my personal life. I'll have freedom. Time. The ability to actually live. And do what? Anything we want. His eyes lit up. Travel. That Italy trip we talked about. Maybe start something new, smaller, more personal. Spend time with my family, your mother, the people who actually matter. Build a life instead of just a company. Kendall's chest felt too full. Too tight. You'd really give all this up? For me. For us. He kissed her softly. And it's not giving up. It's choosing differently. Choosing better. She kissed him back. Poured everything into it. Love and fear and hope and trust. When they broke apart, she was crying and laughing at the same time. So that's it? You're really doing this? I'm sending the email tonight. It'll hit their inboxes at midnight. By Monday morning, it's done. Sullivan smiled. No vote. No fight. Just a clean transition and a new beginning. What will people say? That I let a woman ruin my career. His shrug was careless. Let them. I know the truth. We know the truth. That's all that matters. Kendall looked around his office. 2 years of memories in this space. 2 years of watching him work, supporting him, slowly falling in love with him. I'm going to miss this, she said quietly. Being here. Being part of this world. You'll visit. I'll still have an office as chairman. Just smaller. Less important. He grinned. Might even get you visitor access. Let you see how the other half lives. Generous of you. I'm a giver. He pulled her close again. Speaking of which, I have one more thing for you. He opened his desk drawer. Pulled out a small box. Kendall's heart stopped. Sullivan. It's not what you think. Relax. He opened it. Inside, a key. Simple. Silver. To my place. Our place, if you want it to be. No pressure. Just, you should have a key. In case you want to be there when I'm there. Or when I'm not. Whatever you want. She took the key. Felt the weight of it. The meaning. This is a big step. I know. But we've already taken a dozen big steps. What's one more? He smiled. Besides, you've already stayed over half the week. Might as well make it official. Official. She tested the word. Liked how it sounded. Okay. Official. I'll take the key. Good. Because I already had a drawer cleared for you. And half the closet. And I bought that to you like. He looked almost shy. I might have been planning this for a while. Might have. Definitely was. I'm not subtle. Sullivan glanced at the clock. It's 5:02. You're officially unemployed. What do you want to do first? Kiss you without worrying about who's watching. Done. He kissed her. Slow and thorough and perfect. When they broke apart, both smiling, he laced his fingers through hers. Ready to start the rest of our lives? With you? Always. Kendall woke to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows and Sullivan's arm around her waist. It took a moment to remember where she was. Rome. Their hotel overlooking the Spanish Steps. Day 4 of the Italy trip Sullivan had promised months ago. You're awake. Sullivan's voice was rough with sleep. Morning. Morning yourself. She turned in his arms to face him. His hair was messy, face relaxed, smile easy. He looked younger here. Lighter. Like stepping away from the CEO role had lifted a weight she hadn't fully realized he was carrying. What's the plan today? He kissed her forehead. More museums? More pasta? More getting lost in tiny streets and pretending we know where we're going? All of the above. She stretched. But coffee first. Real Italian coffee. Your wish is my command. They'd been in Italy for 4 days. 4 perfect days of cobblestone streets and ancient history and food so good it should have been illegal. They'd visited the Colosseum, thrown coins in Trevi Fountain, eaten gelato for breakfast, and no one could judge them. And they'd been happy. Genuinely, completely happy. The past month had been chaotic. Sullivan's resignation had made headlines. Whitlock's CEO steps down for love ran in every major business publication. The internet had opinions, mostly terrible, but also some surprisingly supportive. Marcus had taken over as CEO seamlessly. The company hadn't skipped a beat. Sullivan stayed on as chairman, attended board meetings remotely, advised on major decisions. But the 80-hour weeks were gone. The constant pressure was gone. The weight of running everything was gone. And in its place, time. Freedom. Space to breathe. Kendall had taken a job as chief of staff at a tech startup. Smaller company, better title, more money than Sullivan had ever paid her. She'd started 2 weeks ago and loved it. Loved being valued for her skills rather than her proximity to power. Loved building something new. But mostly she loved coming home to Sullivan every night. To the penthouse that was slowly becoming theirs instead of just his. She'd added photos to the walls, pictures of them in Italy, of her mother on a good day, of Sullivan and Marcus as kids. Small touches that made the space feel lived in. Loved. They got coffee at a tiny cafe 2 blocks from their hotel. Sat at a sidewalk table and watched Rome wake up around them. "I've been thinking," Sullivan said, stirring sugar into his espresso. "About what's next." "Next as in today or next as in life?" "Life." He smiled. "I've spent the past month decompressing. Figuring out who I am without the CEO title. And I think I'm ready to start something new." "Like what?" "A foundation. Caroline and I talked about it before she got sick, using our money to help people. Cancer research, maybe. Or education programs. Something that matters." He looked at Kendall. "I want you to help me build it. If you're interested." "You want me to help you start a foundation?" "I want you to co-found it with me. Equal partners. Your name on everything." His eyes were serious. "You're brilliant at organizing chaos, at understanding what people need, at making things work. And you care about the right things. We'd make a good team." Kendall's throat tightened. "Sullivan, that's huge." "I know. No pressure. You've got your new job and that's great. But down the road, if you wanted to do something bigger together." He shrugged. "I'm just saying. The option's there." She reached across the table. Laced their fingers together. "Can I think about it?" "Take all the time you need. I'm not going anywhere." He squeezed her hand. "Well, I'm going to Florence tomorrow. Then Venice. Then the Amalfi Coast. But metaphorically, not going anywhere." She laughed. "Metaphorically noted." They spent the day wandering. Villa Borghese Gardens. The Pantheon. Tiny trattorias where locals outnumbered tourists and the pasta was handmade. They got lost 3 times. Didn't care. That evening, back at their hotel, Sullivan opened a bottle of wine on their balcony. The sun was setting over Rome, painting everything gold. "I need to tell you something," Kendall said, watching the light change. "About Derek." Sullivan looked at her. "Okay. I saw him. Last week. He showed up at my new office." She paused. "Wanted to congratulate me on the new job. Said he'd been following my career." "How did that feel?" "Weird." He looked smaller. Like the person I built up in my head for years wasn't real. She turned to face Sullivan. "He asked if I was happy. If you made me happy. And I said yes without even thinking about it. Just yes. Simple as that. You are happy." Sullivan said it like a confirmation. Like he needed to hear it. "I'm happy." She moved closer. "I'm in love. I'm building a life I actually chose instead of one that just happened. I'm free, Sullivan. Really free. For the first time since Derek left me in that church." "I'm glad." He pulled her close. "You deserve happy. You deserve everything." "So do you." She kissed him softly. "Thank you." "For what?" "For seeing me. For choosing me. For loving me enough to risk everything." She rested her head on his chest. "For being brave when I was scared." "You were brave too." His arms tightened around her. You took a chance on a broken widower who didn't know how to feel anymore. That's pretty damn brave. They stood on the balcony as Rome lit up below them. Ancient city, eternal city, city of second chances and new beginnings. I love you, Kendall said. Simple. True. I love you too. Sullivan kissed the top of her head. In every version of this, I choose you. Every version? Every single one. He pulled back to look at her. The version where I'm CEO. The version where I'm not. The version where people approve. The version where they don't. Every version, it's you. Tears pricked her eyes. That's really romantic. I have my moments. He grinned. Mostly when I'm in Italy with wine and sunset lighting. Don't expect this level of poetry in Boston. She laughed. Kissed him. I'll take you however you come. Poetic or not. Good. Because I'm keeping you. Forever, if you'll let me. Forever. She tested the word. Found she liked it. Yeah. I can do forever. They went inside eventually. Made love slowly, thoroughly, with the windows open and Rome singing its night song below them. Afterward, tangled together in sheets that smelled like lavender, Sullivan traced patterns on her shoulder. You know what I realized, he said quietly. This past month. What? I've been happier than I've been in years. Maybe ever. He pressed a kiss to her temple. Not because of Italy or stepping down or any external thing. Because of you. Because I finally let myself choose love over fear. Love over fear. Kendall smiled. I like that. It's from something Caroline used to say. When she was sick, when things were hard, she'd remind me to choose love. Love of life, love of people, love of the moment. Even when it hurt. His voice caught. I forgot that after she died. Forgot how to choose anything but survival. But you reminded me. She'd be proud of you. Of us. I think so too. Sullivan was quiet for a moment. I talked to her, you know. Before we left for Italy. Went to her grave, told her about you. Kendall's chest tightened. What did you say? That I met someone. That I was falling in love again. That it felt terrifying and right, and I hoped she'd understand. He swallowed hard. I told her thank you. For teaching me how to love. For making me promise not to stop living. For giving me permission to move forward. What do you think she'd say? If she could answer. Probably something like took you long enough, or don't screw this up. His laugh was wet. She had no patience for wallowing. Would have kicked my ass for the 3 years I spent shut down. Sounds like I would have liked her. You would have. She would have loved you. Sullivan pulled Kendall closer. Different kinds of love. Different relationships. But both real. Both important. They fell asleep like that, wrapped around each other, hearts beating in sync, the past and present and future all tangled together in the best possible way. The Whitlock Technologies shareholder meeting took place in a hotel ballroom in downtown Boston. Kendall sat in the back row, watching Sullivan present the quarterly earnings to a room full of investors. He looked good up there. Confident but not arrogant. Knowledgeable but approachable. The chairman role suited him, still involved, still important, but without the crushing weight of daily operations. Marcus sat beside him on the stage, comfortable in the CEO seat. The brothers had found their rhythm, Marcus handling operations, Sullivan handling strategy. The company was thriving. When the formal presentation ended, shareholders voted on various motions, including one that made Kendall smile, ratifying Sullivan's appointment as permanent chairman. The vote was unanimous. After the meeting, investors mingled over coffee and Danish. Kendall hung back, watching Sullivan work the room. He caught her eye across the space. Winked. Richard Blackwell, the board chairman who'd pushed for Sullivan's resignation, approached her. Kendall tensed. Ms. Price. His tone was formal but not hostile. I wanted to apologize. That was unexpected. For what? For the board's handling of your relationship with Sullivan. We were reactive rather than thoughtful. Concerned about optics rather than substance. He paused. Sullivan's resignation was the right move, not because the relationship was wrong, but because he needed space from the pressure. He's better as chairman. The company's better with Marcus as CEO. But we arrived at the right outcome for the wrong reasons. And you bore the brunt of that unfairly. Kendall studied him. Why are you telling me this? Because Sullivan's happy. Genuinely happy. I haven't seen him like this since before Caroline got sick. Richard's expression softened. And because I was wrong. About you, about your intentions, about what this relationship meant. You're good for him. Good for all of us, in the end. Thank you. She meant it. That actually matters. Richard nodded. Walked away. Sullivan appeared at her elbow a moment later. What did Richard want? To apologize. And admit he was wrong. Kendall smiled. Growth. Who knew? Miracles happen. Sullivan took her hand. Ready to get out of here? I have plans for us. What kind of plans? The kind that involve your favorite restaurant, expensive wine, and a conversation about our future. Her heart skipped. That sounds serious. It is. Very. His eyes held hers. Come with me. She did. Giacomo's in the North End, the Italian place from their first real date. They sat at the same corner booth, ordered the same dishes. Everything familiar. Everything right. After dinner, after wine, after easy conversation about everything and nothing, Sullivan reached across the table and took both her hands. I have something to ask you, he said. And I need you to really think about it before you answer. Kendall's pulse jumped. Okay. The foundation I mentioned in Rome? I want to make it real. The Whitlock Foundation for Cancer Research and Education. I've been working with lawyers, setting up the structure, identifying programs to fund. He paused. And I want you to run it. Not help me run it, run it. Executive Director. Your vision, your decisions, your legacy. Sullivan. I know you love your current job. I know this is huge. But Kendall, you're meant for more than being someone's chief of staff. You're meant to lead. To build something that matters. His grip tightened. I'm offering you the chance to do that. With my money and my name as starting capital, but your heart and mind making it work. What do you say? She stared at him. You want me to run a foundation. I want you to change the world. I'm just providing the resources to make it possible. He smiled. No pressure. You can say no. But I had to ask. Kendall thought about her current job. It was good. Stable. Well-paying. Safe. She thought about what Sullivan was offering. Uncertain. Challenging. Meaningful. Can I build it my way? She asked. Focus on underserved communities? Make sure cancer research includes diverse populations? Create education programs that actually reach people who need them? Yes. All of that. Whatever you think matters most. Sullivan's eyes shone. I trust you completely. Then yes. The answer came clear. Certain. Yes, I'll run your foundation. Our foundation. Our foundation, he repeated. I like the sound of that. They toasted with the last of the wine. Talked about plans, about vision, about the life they were building together brick by brick. When they left the restaurant, walking hand in hand through Boston's North End, Sullivan pulled her into a quiet side street. One more thing, he said. Before we go home. What? He got down on one knee. Kendall's world stopped. I know it's fast, Sullivan said, pulling a small box from his pocket. I know we've only been officially together for 4 months. I know the sensible thing is to wait, to be patient, to do this by some timeline that makes sense to other people. Sullivan. But I've learned something this year. Life's too short to wait for perfect timing. To play it safe. To deny what you know is real because you're scared it's too soon. He opened the box. Inside, a ring. Simple. Elegant. Perfect. I love you, Kendall Price. I'm in love with you. And I want to spend the rest of my life building something beautiful with you. Will you marry me? Tears streamed down her face. She couldn't speak. Could barely breathe. You don't have to answer now, Sullivan continued. If it's too fast, if you need time. Yes. The word came out choked. Certain. Yes, I'll marry you. Relief and joy flooded his face. He stood, slid the ring onto her finger, kissed her like she was everything. I love you, she whispered against his mouth. I love you so much. I love you too. He rested his forehead against hers. Thank you. For taking a chance on the broken widower who didn't know how to live. For choosing me. For saying yes. Thank you for seeing me. For fighting for us. For loving me enough to risk everything. She looked at the ring on her finger. For asking me to build a life together. They stood in that quiet Boston street, holding each other, both crying and laughing and completely, perfectly happy. Everything had changed since that February morning when Kendall walked into Sullivan's office with a resignation letter. She'd tried to run. He'd refused to let her go. Together, they'd fought through scandal and judgment and fear. And they'd won. Not the fight with the board, Sullivan had walked away from that. But the fight for each other. For love. For the courage to build something real. Ready to go home? Sullivan asked eventually. Yeah. Let's go home. She laced her fingers through his. To our home. Our life. Our forever. Our forever. He smiled. I like the sound of that. They walked through Boston together, engaged in love, ready for whatever came next. The secretary who tried to resign. The billionaire who only wanted her forever. And the love story that was only just beginning. Kendall Whitlock, she still smiled every time she saw that name on official documents, stood in the main hall of the newly opened Whitlock Foundation headquarters. The building was full of people, donors, board members, staff, cancer survivors, families who'd been helped by their programs. 1 year. 1 year since she'd walked out of Whitlock Technologies for the last time. 1 year since everything changed. The foundation had launched in September. In 6 months, they'd funded 3 major research initiatives, created scholarship programs for students who'd lost parents to cancer, and established support groups in 20 cities. It was just the beginning, but it was real. It mattered. Sullivan appeared at her elbow, handed her champagne. You did it. All of this. We did it. She clinked her glass against his. Team effort. You're being modest. He kissed her temple. This is your vision. Your heart. I just wrote the checks. She leaned into him, surveyed the room. Her mother was there, good day, clear eyes, talking to Rachel about something that made them both laugh. Marcus was there with his new girlfriend, looking happy and relaxed. Sullivan's family, her friends, people whose lives had been touched by cancer and by hope. You know what today is? Sullivan murmured. Valentine's Day. 1 year since I tried to resign. Best worst decision you ever almost made. He turned her to face him. Thank you. For not running. For staying. For building this incredible life with me. Thank you for not accepting my resignation. She smiled. For seeing what I was too scared to see, that this was worth the risk. Always. He kissed her. Soft and sweet and full of promise. In every version, I choose you. Every version, she agreed. I choose you too. They stood together in the foundation they'd built, surrounded by love and purpose and the future they'd created from the ashes of fear and grief and second chances. The secretary who tried to resign after their incident. The billionaire who only wanted her forever. And the love that proved, sometimes the best things come from the bravest choices. Sometimes choosing love over fear changes everything. And sometimes, just sometimes, forever is exactly what you get. Thank you for watching this story to the end. If you enjoyed this story, you will surely love the next one. It's as crazier and more intriguing as you can ever imagine. So do check it out. Click on the image showing on your screen right now to watch the next one.